Chapter 964. This could be considered a close encounter with a soul demon. Unfortunately, he didn't discover the soul demon's methods in time. Even if he wanted to find this thing, he couldn't use his divine sense to search everywhere. After all, soul demons specialized in divine sense cultivation. If he used his divine sense openly, he wouldn't be able to hide from them. Even if he encountered them again, he wouldn't have a good way to capture them. At this time, in the underground space behind Wang Daoyuan, there were two very small figures in a crack in the rock. One of them said, "Elder, we met this person last time. We saw that his body was far stronger than ordinary Zifu realm cultivators and suspected that he had a secret treasure. But we were worried that he was a high-level cultivator hiding his cultivation, so we didn't act." The other soul demon nodded. "You did the right thing. This person is indeed extraordinary. He was actually able to sense our presence just now. Even I couldn't see any signs of him hiding his cultivation. If he wasn't hiding his cultivation, then it would be terrifying if he could sense our presence with such a powerful body. Either this person is extraordinarily talented, and his body and talent are both extremely powerful. Either that, or he has a secret treasure that makes his body incredibly strong, and that secret treasure may have the ability to sense our race. Either way, he's very valuable. What should we do? Should we capture him now? Don't act rashly. We haven't figured out his secrets yet. There were too many demons and half-demons here. If he had a secret treasure that could protect him, he wouldn't be able to escape. If we act rashly and fail to capture him, our clan will be exposed to the public. Keep an eye on him first. I don't believe he'll be with other demons and half-demons. When he's alone, we'll call more of our race and capture him in one go." Wang Daoyuan acted as if nothing had happened and continued to follow the half-demons. When they arrived at the main part of the hot spring valley, they found traces of a battle. There were many scratches on the walls and many shattered rocks. There were also many bloodstains on the ground. The spirit energy fluctuations it emitted indicated that it was left behind by a mid-grade grade 4 demon beast. From the aura of the blood, the owner should be a tiger-type demon beast with some white tiger bloodline, but it was far from being a half-divine beast. This sort of strength was simply impossible to survive against Bing Ho and the Xuanwu army commander. He should have been killed by now and his corpse should have been kept. Zhuochaowei brought the green flood dragon to the front of the ice dragon. He bowed and said, "General, this green flood dragon is a member of the Hot Spring Valley's demon clan. He is willing to submit to our Ice Plains demon race and is also a dragon. I didn't dare to deal with him on my own, so I brought him here." The green flood dragon continued, "Although I was born in the heaven/mountain range, I was a snake that transformed into a flood dragon. His parents were only low-ranked spirit snakes, and they had long since passed away. When I was young, I accidentally swallowed the remains of a dragon species, and the dragon bloodline hidden in my body awakened. After thousands of years of cultivation, he finally transformed into a flood dragon. He had cultivated for over 1,000 years and had never killed a demon of the Ice Plains. I have nothing to worry about in the heavenly/mountain ranges demon race. I am willing to submit to the Ice Plains demon race. Please take me in." The Ice Chi nodded. "Since you have dragon blood and are of the same race, there's no problem in accepting you. You can be a centurion under the left commandant for now. With your strength, it won't be a problem to establish yourself. In the future, when the Snow Dragon army expands, it will be easy for you to become a commandant." The green flood dragon was overjoyed. He thought that it would be good enough if he could keep his life. He didn't expect to be able to become a centurion. "Many thanks to General for not killing me. I will definitely repay General's kindness with my life." Everyone waited here for an hour before the Xuanwu army returned. The Xuanwu army's left commandant also cupped his hands towards the Xuanwu army's general. "General, we have 2 low-ranked rank 4 demons and 30 rank 3 demons. They have all been killed." The Xuanwu army's general nodded. "You have done well." Then he said to the Ice Dragon, "Brother Ice Dragon, according to our scouts, there are 5 rank 4 demons and over 100 rank 3 demons in the Hot Spring Valley. We have encountered rank 4 demons, but we have only killed about 50 rank 3 demons. There are still another 50 that have not been found." The green flood dragon cupped his hands and said, "Generals, those people took the demon cubs and fled south through the cave. This karst cave was full of forks, unlike the 2 directions in the east and west, which had been excavated by someone. I haven't been in the Hot Spring Valley for long, so I don't know much. I don't know where they fled to." The Ice Dragon smiled. "Actually, it's good to let some go. It's like the human race planting spirit grains. We can't eat them all at once. When these demons reproduce, we can come back and kill them. If we kill them all, we will have to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain to kill the demons of the Skycarve Mountain range. The Xuanwu army's general nodded. Brother Ice Dragon's method is good. Then let's not take the risk and go back. Wang Daoyuan followed the Snow Dragon army and the Xuanwu army back to Snow Dragon City. After their near-death experience, the demons and half-demons wanted to indulge themselves. The Snow Dragon army gave them some rewards and let them indulge in wine and pleasure. After Wang Daoyuan sold the rank 3 wolf demon to the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce, he returned to the small courtyard to continue his seclusion. He took out a communication jade talisman and sent a message to Wang Mingchen, telling him that he might encounter a soul demon. He asked him to ask the Myriad Spirits Patriarch if he had a way to detect a soul demon. In the palace of Qingli City, after Wang Mingchen received the message, he called out the Myriad Spirits Patriarch and handed him the jade talisman. After reading the message Jade Talisman, the Myriad Spirits Patriarch sighed. As expected of the Son of Providence. He found traces of a soul demon so quickly. The Black Tortoise Hall in the Valley of Beasts has been busy for more than 100,000 years, but they only found traces of soul demons more than 10 times. It's only been a year, but he found a soul demon. After a while, he might really be able to catch a soul demon. Wang Mingchen asked, "Do you have a way to detect soul demons? This thing comes and goes without a trace and it can hide in the netherworld at any time. If you don't have a way to detect it, the soul demon will escape before you can do anything." The Myriad Spirits Patriarch replied, "I've experienced too many things. I can't remember anything for a while. Daoyuan mentioned the soul demon to me before, so I thought more about it. Those kids from the Black Tortoise Hall have been fighting with soul demons for more than 100 years, so they have naturally created many methods to deal with them. They don't have the ability to separate the two realms of yin and yang, but they still have many methods to detect soul demons. Some secret techniques are not practical. After all, soul demons appear and disappear in an instant. They can't use secret techniques all the time. There was once a Black Tortoise Hall master who improved a soul-chasing compass based on evil cultivators' dharma artifacts. This thing could track the traces of souls. As long as it was a living being with a soul, it could not escape the detection of the soul-chasing compass. Furthermore, the stronger the soul, the higher the spiritual consciousness cultivation, the more obvious it would be on the soul-chasing compass. Although the soul demon was neither a demon nor a ghost, it was still a living being with a soul. The disciples of the Black Tortoise Hall also relied on this compass to find traces of soul demons many times. Unfortunately, the soul demon's method of traveling between the two realms was too brilliant. They couldn't catch it even if they found it. Whether Daoyuan can catch it or not will depend on his ability. When Wang Mingchen heard this, he hurriedly said, "Then let's send the refining method of the soul-chasing compass to Father." The Myriad Spirits Patriarch said with a smile, "There's no need to do that. I saw that the inheritances in the secret room of the Imperial Study were all copied copies. They should have been in Daoyuan's hands. It's just that there are too many things, so it's impossible for him to check them all. Now, as long as we send a message to tell him about the soul-chasing compass, he can find the refining method himself." Wang Mingchen nodded and took out a communication jade talisman to send the information about the soul-chasing compass. Chapter 965. Wang Daoyuan didn't know how to search for the spirit demon, so he planned to go to the Archaic Mysteries sect to borrow the yin-yang compass. The yin-yang compass's functions were more comprehensive. It could search for various spiritual objects, find the flaws in array formations, and also have the function of trapping the enemy. Using this thing to search for the spirit demon would be more or less useful. After receiving Wang Mingchen's message and learning about the function of the soul-chasing compass, he immediately let the doppelganger in the space of the spirit pearl search for the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts. After obtaining the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts, he let the doppelganger organize it. Different types of inheritances were stored in different categories. He didn't pay too much attention to an unorthodox magic weapon like the soul-chasing compass, so he didn't copy it. All the refining methods of unorthodox magic weapons were piled together. Several doppelgangers searched together and soon found the refining method of the soul-chasing compass. All compass-like magic weapons had the same basic functions, and the refining methods were relatively similar. The target was different and the tool patterns were different. The soul-chasing compass could find the target's tool pattern and sense the power of the soul and spiritual sense. There were many compass-like magic weapons with this function, but the soul-chasing compass's function was stronger. Generally, the same type of magic tool would only be able to detect some clues when the target used their divine sense. The soul-chasing compass's function was much stronger. As long as a soul appeared within the range of detection, it could detect it. Of course, the premise was that the opponent didn't have any special defense. This soul-chasing compass was made by the Valley of Beasts and had never been seen before. Even the Black Tortoise Hall master who created the soul-chasing compass didn't know what method could interfere with it. There was doppelganger Shui Quan in the space of the Spirit Pearl. In terms of processing materials and forging, Wang Daoyuan didn't need to do it himself. The flow of time in the space of the Spirit Pearl was more than 90 times faster than the outside world, so Shui Quan had plenty of time to practice. 3 days later, a compass without any engravings on it was created. After all, the soul-chasing compass was a relatively special magic weapon. Its ability to detect souls was very strong, and the difficulty of refining was also higher. Wang Daoyuan tossed and turned for 2 months. After failing 3 times, he finally managed to refine a compass that didn't have too many flaws. After all, to deal with the legendary spirit demon, he had to try his best to do it perfectly. After the tool pattern was inscribed, it was stored in the spiritual bead space and placed in the Xianxian cauldron to be nurtured. 5 or 6 days later, the artifact was completely nurtured. The well-nourished soul-chasing compass was a black disc with a diameter of more than 5 inches. Its raw material was the Yellow Springs willow. This compass was an upper-grade 5th-tier magic tool, and its refining method was similar to that of the 7th-tier soul-chasing compass. However, Wang Daoyuan knew his own limits, so he did not pursue a higher level of difficulty. The pattern on the compass was also very simple. There was nothing else other than the direction mark. He put the soul-chasing compass into his sea of consciousness. After all, he had to deal with the elusive soul demon. He couldn't always hold the compass in his hand. Back then, the creator of the soul-chasing compass had thought of this point and made some improvements to the tool pattern, allowing it to be stored in the sea of consciousness. Injecting his spiritual energy and divine sense into the compass released an extremely weak energy. This energy's ability to penetrate was extremely strong. When it came out of Wang Daoyuan's sea of consciousness, it did not encounter any obstruction. Soon, this energy covered an area with a radius of 300 miles. This energy was extremely hidden. Even with Wang Daoyuan's divine sense cultivation base, it was difficult to detect it. If he could easily detect it, he would not be able to hide it from the soul demon. The divine sense power of an ordinary demon was far inferior to that of a human. The great demon king of the extremely frozen ice field should be completely unable to detect this special energy, let alone the other demon clans. After the energy spread out to 300 miles, an illusory image of 100 feet in diameter began to appear on the compass. This illusory image was a topographic map of Snow Dragon City and its surroundings. A human sea of consciousness was originally an extremely special space, and the range was also boundless. Of course, the vast majority of physical objects could not be directly placed into the sea of consciousness. Otherwise, the human race would not need any space treasures. For this kind of illusory image without substance, it did not matter how many there were. On the topographic map illusory image, dense light spots appeared. Each speck of light represented a living being with a soul. These specks of light were all different in color and brightness. The light spots displayed by the soul-chasing compass had a total of 8 colors, which were gray, red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Gray represented ordinary beasts and humans below the Qi refinement realm. The 7 colors corresponded to human cultivators from the Qi refinement realm to the Mahayana realm and demons of the same realm. The strength of the divine sense cultivation base was represented by the brightness of the light spots. Wang Daoyuan's compass was only of the upper grade of the 5th grade. The highest level it could detect was the soul of a soul formation cultivator. It displayed blue light spots. In the entire Snow Dragon City area, there were no gray light spots, and even red light spots were extremely rare. There were also many orange light spots, but most of them were yellow light spots that represented Zifu realm cultivators. There was probably a green light spot under the city lord's mansion. It seemed that there was still a 5th-grade demon lurking in Snow Dragon City. After verifying its function, Wang Daoyuan closed the soul-chasing compass. The search tools were all available. If he wanted to catch the soul demon, he could only rely on the Spirit Pearl. To delay the soul demon from escaping into the underworld and buy time for the Spirit Pearl, he still had to rely on Yun Yi's roar. This guy had stayed in the Spirit Pearl space for more than a year. According to the flow of time in the space, more than 100 years had passed. There were many spiritual items in the Spirit Pearl space. Yun Yi's cultivation resources would not be lacking. However, this guy wanted to slack off, so Wang Daoyuan ordered the Xianxian Cauldron's weapon spirit to keep an eye on him. Yun Yi's strength was completely vulnerable in front of the 6th-grade Xianxian Cauldron. The Xianxian Cauldron would not spoil him. If he was disobedient, he would be taken into the cauldron and roasted with the spirit fire. Now that his cultivation had reached the middle grade of the 4th grade, it would take some time for him to reach the upper grade of the 4th grade. His current cultivation speed was already beyond Wang Daoyuan's expectations. Without the Xianxian cauldron with Yun Yi's lazy character, it would probably take him 10 years to reach the peak of the 4th grade. Now it seemed that it would take at most 2 or 3 years. The silver flood dragon came to his door. Wang Daoyuan's consciousness left the spirit pearl space. He came to the door and asked, "What's the matter, brother Silver Flood Dragon?" The right field lieutenant conveyed General Ice Dragon's order. The right field colonel wants to recruit half-demons as soon as possible. Also, starting from next month, the right field colonel's 100-man squads will go to the Sky Beheading Mountain range to patrol and kill the remaining demons. Is there any movement from the left field colonel's side? The Silver Flood Dragon shook his head. There's no movement from the left field colonel's side. They're still recruiting the 3rd grade demons step by step. However, the newly recruited demons have added a condition. They must have an escape technique as one of their innate spells. Wang Daoyuan nodded and did not say anything. It seemed that last time in the Hot Spring Valley, the demons suffered heavy losses while the half-demons were unharmed, which provoked the Ice Dragon. The demons only relied on their bloodline talents. In terms of adaptability, they were far inferior to half-demons. Half a month later, it was time for the right field colonel to patrol the Sky Beheading Mountain range. Wang Daoyuan was the centurion of the right field colonel's 100-man squad. His patrol area was east of Snow Dragon City. After leading his subordinates more than 1,000 miles away from Snow Dragon City, Wang Daoyuan opened the soul-chasing compass in his sea of consciousness. The image on the compass showed that within a radius of 300 miles, there were no other living beings besides the half-demons he led. This thing consumed a lot of spirit power. However, Wang Daoyuan did not care about spirit power consumption and planned to keep it open. Not far from the east, 2 dazzling light spots suddenly appeared on the compass. One of them was a green light spot representing the Yuanian cultivators. Moreover, this light spot was extremely dazzling. It was not inferior to his own light spot on the compass image. The other light spot was green. It represented a golden core state cultivation. Wang Daoyuan was overjoyed. His prey had appeared. The souls of demons were far inferior to humans. In the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian, there was no one with a consciousness comparable to his. Moreover, these 2 light spots appeared suddenly. Only soul demons had a consciousness comparable to his and could appear and disappear unpredictably. Chapter 966. The 2 specks of light were very cautious and remained 100 kilometers north of Wang Daoyuan the entire time. This distance was nothing to Yuanian cultivators. Against ordinary enemies, even if they couldn't kill them in one blow, they could still severely injure them. However, soul demons were too special. They could escape into the netherworld at any time. Even mighty figures couldn't stop them. At a distance of 100 kilometers, Yuanian cultivators couldn't stop them. Wang Daoyuan didn't understand why the 2 were following him. In order to avoid alerting them, he pretended that he hadn't discovered anything. In the north, 2 indistinct figures floated in the air. Their figures were extremely small, only the size of mosquitoes. They didn't leak any spirit power or spiritual sense. Hun-in, do you feel that something is wrong? Hun-in released a trace of his spiritual sense and probed the surrounding situation. No, Elder. Our clan's spiritual sense secret technique is very effective. As long as there are living creatures nearby, even if their cultivation is much higher than mine, I should be able to sense them. The elder also released a trace of his spiritual sense and probed the surroundings. Indeed, I didn't discover anything. I just felt that something was off. Could it be that you sensed the target's treasure? Hun-in replied, that's really possible. All treasures are extraordinary in some way. Perhaps it's because my cultivation is too low and I can't sense it. Elder, your strength isn't much weaker than the patriarch's. You should have sensed the treasure's extraordinariness. What you said makes sense, but we can't let our guard down. When we attack later, we'll create some unexpected situations to avoid exposing our clan's whereabouts. Wang Daoyuan still acted as if nothing had happened. He led the 20 or so Zifu half-demons on flying swords. The 2 specks of light on the compass had always been 100 kilometers north. The distance and speed hadn't changed. Now it seemed that these 2 fellows weren't just passing by. It was very likely that they were coming for him. This sudden surprise left Wang Daoyuan at a loss. He was originally worried that he would alert the enemy and allow the 2 fellows to escape. From the looks of it, these 2 fellows were determined to die. A rank 5 spirit demon was not easy to deal with. The other rank 4 spirit demon could still give it a try. Yun-Yi was a rank 4 spirit demon and had an innate ability to restrain spirit demons and ghosts. In the case where the difference in cultivation was not too big, there was still some hope of suppressing a rank 4 spirit demon with a tiger roar. Everyone flew towards the east for more than 2,000 miles. Silver Flood Dragon took out a simple map and said, "Centurion, the right field commandant has divided us into 7 patrol areas. Our team of 100 now only has 20 or so people. We're divided into 3 teams of 10. If everyone were to patrol together, they would probably have to stay in this world of ice and snow for a few days. I think it's better to patrol separately. Centurion, please decide how to distribute them." Wang Daoyuan took the map and examined it carefully. Then he pointed at the area on the map and said, "I will personally patrol the southernmost area. The 3 of you will patrol 2 areas each." Wang Daoyuan wanted to send the others away, but the 2 spirit demons didn't make a move. Perhaps they felt that there were too many half-demons. If they took down all the half-demons, the impact would be too great. If a team of 100 suddenly disappeared, there would definitely be a big commotion in Snow Dragon City. These patrol areas were separated by 1 or 2,000 miles. If he patrolled an area alone, the other half-demons wouldn't be able to detect him at all. At that time, the 2 spirit demons would dare to make a move. Silver Flood Dragon hurriedly said, "Centurion, this is not appropriate. Although the demons in the Heavenly/Mountain range don't dare to show up easily, there are still sporadic demon beasts roaming around occasionally. If you encounter those demon beasts, it will be difficult for you to deal with them. Rank 3 demon beasts are nothing to worry about. If we encounter rank 4 demon beasts, what's the difference whether we split up or not? It's settled then. You all go patrol your own areas." Then he flew towards the southeast. After flying for 500 or 600 miles, the 2 light spots still maintained a distance of more than 200 miles from him. Wang Daoyuan was relieved. At least these 2 guys' target was him and not the other half-demons. He continued to fly towards the southeast for more than 2,000 miles, and the 2 light spots began to rapidly approach him. Wang Daoyuan was also a little nervous. This was a critical moment that determined his future Dao path. If the spirit demons took the initiative to attack, he couldn't avoid them without exposing his strength. Once they attacked but couldn't take down a spirit demon, they wouldn't easily show up in the future. The Arctic ice field was vast and boundless. Where could he find them? The spirit demons were rapidly approaching. Wang Daoyuan also asked his clone to greet Yun-Yi so that he wouldn't screw up. Yun-Ening was also ready to let the spirit bead leave his sea of consciousness at any time. After more than 10 breaths, the 2 spirit demons had already arrived more than 300 feet behind him. Wang Daoyuan quickly summoned Yun-Yi from the spirit bead space. This fat tiger didn't screw up after all. The moment he came outside, he let out a roar. It was as if he was roaring out all the grievances he had suffered in the spirit bead space over the years. Wang Daoyuan was also very fast. When the tiger roared, the spirit bead had already arrived outside his sea of consciousness. Immediately, a spiritual energy vortex hundreds of feet long appeared around him, and the 2 spirit demons were in the spiritual energy vortex. The 2 spirit demons were taken aback by the sudden change. The tiger roar came, and as soon as they realized that something was wrong, they felt as if there was thunder in their ears. The rank 4 spirit demon was stunned on the spot. Although the rank 5 spirit demon was also a little affected, his cultivation base was not low. He reacted in an instant, and there was a violent fluctuation of divine sense power on his body. Wang Daoyuan only felt that a dark hole appeared below, and it was emitting violent spatial fluctuations. At the same time, there was an extremely rich yin qi gushing out of the hole. This yin qi was very mixed, and it was mixed with death qi, resentment qi, and so on. This should be the escape method of the spirit demons, shuttling between the 2 worlds of yin and yang. This mixed yin qi should be coming from the underworld. As soon as the black hole appeared, violent spatial fluctuations appeared on the spirit bead. Under the suppression of the spirit bead, the black hole slowly shrank. At this time, the spirit demon's concealment method was broken, and they were directly exposed in front of Wang Daoyuan. These 2 guys were almost completely transparent. They looked like human figures, but he couldn't see their specific faces. The rank 5 spirit demon's body also emitted the same mixed yin qi as below, enveloping him and Han Yin. At the same time, the black hole below had an extremely strong suction force on the 2 spirit demons. This should be the spell used by the spirit demons to escape to the underworld. But the suction force of the spirit bead had always been there, and the suction force of the black hole did not prevail. The 2 spirit demons didn't move at all, and the rank 5 spirit demon let out a terrified cry as if it had encountered something terrible. Yunyi was still roaring, and Hunin had fallen into a semi-coma and didn't know how to escape. As time passed, the spirit power vortex caused by the spirit bead became bigger and bigger, and the suction force became stronger and stronger. The rank 5 spirit demon couldn't hold on any longer, so it had to give up on Hunin and escape alone. Hunin, who hadn't recovered yet, was directly absorbed into the spirit bead. With a spirit demon in hand, Wang Daoyuan breathed a sigh of relief. He finally got something. This rank 5 spirit demon couldn't be let go easily, or it would attract the revenge of the spirit demons. While he was competing with the suction force of the spirit bead, his divine ability domain had already been unfolded. Yun-Yi continued to roar, deterring the rank 5 spirit demon. Within a few hundred feet of the spirit demon, a black sea of fire formed, completely covering the place where the Yin Qi gushed out from below. The sea of fire was still expanding, trying to wrap the rank 5 spirit demon. The spirit demon seemed to be very afraid of the Gui water hell flame and didn't dare to break through directly. The Gui water hell flame could directly use the power of the soul and spiritual sense as fuel. The spirit demon's entire body had the characteristics of the soul, which should be restrained by the Gui water hell flame. The rank 5 spirit demon waved his hand, and a gray light hit the sea of fire below. The power of this move was not bad. The sea of fire was split in half, and he immediately swooped down. Wang Daoyuan quickly controlled the two seas of fire to converge in the middle. With the suction force of the spirit bead and Yun-Yi's roar, his speed was greatly affected. Before he rushed out, the sea of fire recovered again. Chapter 967. The level 5 spirit demon crashed into the sea of fire and hurriedly retreated. After retreating from the sea of fire, there were still a few black flames on his body, and the fire was still expanding. He took out a 3-inch translucent bottle, which seemed to be made of ice attribute materials. This bottle was extraordinary, and it collected all the black flames on his body. Wang Daoyuan was a little surprised. In all the records of the human race, spirit demons were considered a kind of spirit demon. But ordinary spirit demons, even if they could use magic weapons after transformation, didn't have the ability to refine magic weapons. The spirit demon had never come into contact with humans, but he could have a level 5 magic weapon. The level 5 spirit demon turned into an ordinary person and used this small bottle to resist the surrounding black flames. At the same time he said to Wang Daoyuan, "We father and son were greedy and wanted to sneak attack Daoyu. We were wrong first. We are willing to compensate Daoyu for his loss. Please let us go." The language this thing spoke was no different from human language, but the accent was a little different. Wang Daoyuan sneered. The spirit demon and half-demon have weak spirit sense. Human Yuanian cultivators can't communicate with the underworld. Do you think it's useful to pretend to be a treasure-snatching cultivator with me? As he spoke, his hands didn't stop. In the black sea of fire, 10 fireballs appeared in an instant. This fireball was only the size of a baby's fist, and it contained the power of thunder. It was the Gui water divine thunder. Combined with the domain ability, it could condense multiple Gui water divine thunder at the same time. Seeing that he couldn't escape into the underworld, the level 5 spirit demon stopped attacking the sea of fire. He just maintained the passage to the underworld and barely resisted the power of the spirit bead. The power of his spirit sense converged, and a large amount of cold air gushed out of his body. This was the southern edge of the extreme cold ice field, and the ice attribute spirit power was extremely strong. Under the guidance of the spirit demon's cold air, the ice attribute spirit power condensed into countless ice cubes around his body. The Gui water divine thunder hit, and many ice cubes turned into ice fragments. But there were too many ice cubes and a large number of ice cubes were intact. You can take down Hunin and break our escape secret technique. You must have come specifically for our race. You may have broken my clan's secret escape technique, but my peak 5th order cultivation base isn't just for show. This spell of yours seems to be the water divine lightning of the 5 thunder sect. His power is not weak. It was rare for a body refinement cultivator to have such attainments in magic. However, no matter how powerful the blooming water divine lightning was, it was still of the water attribute. In the extreme frost icy plains, it would not be able to unleash much of its power when it encountered ice attribute spiritual energy. Quickly release Hunin and I can spare your life. This soul demon was rather arrogant. However, even with mighty figures everywhere, the soul demon race had been able to roam freely for hundreds of thousands of years without ever failing. It was reasonable for him to look down on the human race, but this soul demon's arrogance was used in the wrong place. It was best to end things quickly when stirring up trouble at the edge of the Arctic icy plains. Currently, the spiritual chi whirlpool created by the spiritual pearl had already covered an area of over 100 miles. Moreover, it was still expanding rapidly. Snow Dragon City should have already been alerted. After all, they were at the doorstep of the Ice Plains demon race. If things got out of hand, it wouldn't look good for anyone. Now that this level 5 soul demon gave up escaping and planned to use his strength to force him to release Hanin, this was exactly what Wang Daoyuan wanted. He summoned the Xian cauldron from the space of the spiritual pearl. If he wanted to capture this level 5 soul demon alive, he could only rely on the Xian cauldron. As soon as the Xian cauldron came out, a powerful suppressive force was directed at the soul demon. This time he panicked. Originally he was at the peak of Yuanying and could still fight. Now that he had taken out a level 6 magic weapon, there was really no way to fight. Wang Daoyuan sneered and said, "If you are willing to serve me as your master, I can spare your life. If you resist stubbornly, you will definitely die." The level 5 soul demon smiled bleakly. "Han Yin is just a junior and doesn't know much about the matters of the race. You won't be of much use to him. I am an elder of the race. If I serve you as my master, my race will probably be extinct. For the continuation of the soul demon race, it doesn't matter if I lose my old life." After saying that, the spiritual power and divine sense around him became extremely violent. Wang Daoyuan knew that he was going to self-destruct, but his body was surrounded by countless ice cubes. Even the Xian cauldron could not penetrate these ice cubes and make him lose his resistance. This level 5 soul demon was not weak and he had been prepared. In addition, he was already determined to die, so it was completely impossible to capture him alive. If a peak level 5 soul demon self-destructed, Wang Daoyuan could not guarantee that he could escape unscathed. If he wanted to stop him from self-destructing, he could only kill him. The 5 natal magic weapons had been combined into the Yinglong demon slaying sword. Wang Daoyuan injected most of his spiritual power into it. He did not use any spells. He directly controlled the Yinglong demon slaying sword to slash at the soul demon. The power of the Yinglong demon slaying sword could already pose a fatal threat to an early-stage soul formation cultivator. Especially in terms of killing, it was far superior to the Xian cauldron. The ice cubes condensed by the soul demon could not withstand a single blow from this sword. The barrier formed by countless ice cubes was directly split open, creating a passage. The soul demon was already determined to die, so he did not try to resist anymore. Yinglong's demon slaying sword pierced through him. Wang Daoyuan restrained some of his power. He only killed the soul demon and did not destroy his body. As soon as the soul demon died, the black hole leading to the underworld instantly disappeared. He scanned the surroundings with his spiritual sense and did not find any traces of demons, half-demons, or humans. Only then did he clear the surrounding traces. He put the soul demon's corpse and Yun Yi, who was hiding behind him to watch the show, into the space of the spiritual pearl. Since he had already captured the soul demon, there was no need to stay in Snow Dragon City. He hid his figure and followed the sky/mountain range south. Soon he returned to the Jade Spring Peak. The battle with the soul demon had caused too much of a commotion. The demons of the Arctic ice plains did not dare to go over to check. After 2 days, they sent a golden core half-demon to investigate. Wang Daoyuan had personally cleaned up the traces. Even if a Grand Demon King came, it would be difficult to find any clues. What could a mere gold core half-demon do? After returning to the underground cave abode of the Jade Spring Peak, Yun Ening entered the space of the spiritual pearl and prepared to refine Han Yin into a clone. This guy's soul was severely injured after being roared at by Yun Yi more than 10 times. The soul of a demon beast was very different from the soul of a human. The soul demon was extremely special. It was hard to say if it could be recovered. Wang Daoyuan took out the soul fragment from the clone puppet Shen Ding and injected it into Han Yin's body. Then he waited for the soul fragment to control the clone. The soul demon clan was really strange. After the death of the rank 5 soul demon, his corpse slowly turned from solid to illusory. Now his corpse was almost without substance. Instead, it looked very much like a soul. After waiting for a few hours, the soul fragment in Han Yin's body had already taken control of the clone. Wang Daoyuan pried into Han Yin's memories and had some understanding of the soul demon clan. The rank 5 soul demon that he had killed earlier was a high-ranking elder of the soul demon clan. His status was equivalent to that of a human clan's grand elder. His name was Hanju. Han Yin's status in the soul demon clan wasn't very high. He could only be considered to have some nurturing value. The soul demon clan didn't live in one place. Instead, they lived in various tribes. The place where the patriarch and the elders lived was called the Soul Domain. It was the place where the Soul Demon clan was born. It was also the holy land of soul demons. Legend had it that the Soul Domain was located at the intersection of Yin and Yang. It was connected to the underworld and the Qianyuan realm. Soul demons were born as soul-like things. As their cultivation level increased, their bodies would become more and more corporeal. When they cultivated to the 7th stage, their bodies would completely turn corporeal. A 7th-stage soul demon was very close to humans. They could even directly cultivate human cultivation techniques and dharma spells. The history of soul demons was very long. There were many opinions regarding the origins of this race. There were 2 reliable theories. First, soul demons were one of the primordial mutated beasts. It was only because the environment of their birthplace was too special that the soul demon clan was so special. Soul demons who held this view believed that humans were the hybrid of a 7th-stage soul demon and other demon beasts. Second, soul demons were the bloodline left behind by human ghost cultivators after they cultivated to become ghost immortals. Ghost immortals were born from death. They cultivated a corporeal body from a ghost. This was very similar to soul demons. Chapter 968. In the knowledge of the human race, the spirit demon should be a kind of ancient beast. But now that he knew the basic situation of the spirit demon, Wang Daoyuan really didn't believe it. After all, this statement seemed to be flattering himself no matter how he looked at it. Unfortunately, the status of the soul hermit was not high and he knew very little. The place he was born in was just an ordinary spirit demon tribe and he had never been to the Soul Society. He didn't even know where the Soul Society was. He also knew very little about the number of spirit demons and their various inheritances. The relationship between the various spirit demon tribes and the Soul Society was like the relationship between the Blood Shadow headquarters and the various branches. The spirit demon tribes only received orders from the Soul Society and reported information to the Soul Society. They were not qualified to go to the Soul Society at all. As for collecting souls, they were not only collecting the souls of demons, but half-demons and humans were also their targets. It was just that the human race had too many methods, so they did not dare to collect a large number of human souls. Their bodies were very similar to souls, and any soul would be extremely beneficial to their cultivation. He didn't know much about the secrets of the spirit demon tribe. However, Wang Daoyuan still knew the method of converting spiritual consciousness into spiritual power that he needed the most. This method was attached to the spirit demon cultivation method and had the same meaning as the ghost cultivation method. Moreover, it was a very clever kind. Any big force always liked to collect more inheritances. If you wanted to create a cultivation method, you couldn't just think about it. You also needed to learn from other cultivation methods. In creating or improving cultivation methods for spiritual consciousness cultivation, you often needed to learn from ghost cultivation methods. In the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts, there were also many ghost cultivation methods, and Wang Daoyuan had seen many of them. There was really no ghost cultivation method that could be compared to the spirit demon tribe's cultivation method. Ghost cultivators themselves had no physical bodies and could only rely on their souls to absorb spiritual energy. However, what they absorbed was not the 5-element spiritual energy, but the resentment, death energy and other things derived from yin qi. From the ghost cultivation method, ghost cultivators' methods of fighting enemies were similar to spells. The power of spiritual consciousness produced by humans and demons relied on the cooperation of the physical body and the soul to be naturally generated. Ghost cultivators had no physical body, and their souls had also become ghosts, which was very different from the souls of living people. There was no record of how they used spells in the cultivation method inheritance. He definitely couldn't figure this out by himself, so he had to rely on ancestor myriad spirits. He left Jade Spring Peak and headed for Qingli City. After arriving at the Imperial Study, he was about to salute Wang Mingchen who was handling affairs. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and said, "There's no need to stand on ceremony. Call out the myriad spirit's old ancestor. I have something to ask him." Wang Mingchen summoned myriad spirit ancestor, myriad spirits ancestor, and Wang Daoyuan. Ancestor myriad spirit of myriad spirits of the spirit demon tribe was looked. Wang Daoyuan nodded. One is dead and one is alive. It's a pity that the guy with the higher cultivation base, the soul demon great elder, died. Of the spirit of the demon tribe. Of the spirit tribes. I've lived for so many years, but I've only heard of spirit demons and never seen one. Bring out the 2 spirit demons. I want to have a good look. Wang Daoyuan took out Hun Ju's and Hun Inda's corpses and placed them in the secret room. The living one has been subdued by me. The dead one still has a corporeal body. But after his death, his corpse began to turn into nothingness, more and more like a ghost. Then he took out a few jade slips. These are the records of the spirit demon tribe in the living spirit demon's memories, as well as the spirit demon cultivation method he mastered. The words in the jade slips are the words they are using now. Ancestor myriad spirits looked carefully for a long time before saying, from the spirit demon's cultivation method, words, and the characteristics of the corpse after death, I think these guys are just flattering themselves when they say that humans are the descendants of spirit demons. The words they use are not the earliest words of the human race. These words were born more than 300,000 years ago and were used until tens of thousands of years ago. If they are really the ancestors of the human race, the words they use should be at least similar to the earliest words of the human race or even older. These things look down on the human race. It is impossible for them to give up the words they created and use the words created by the human race. The spirit demons should be the descendants left behind by the human race's ghost immortals. Although this cultivation method inheritance is strange, it is inextricably linked to the ghost cultivation method. Although I have never seen the offspring of two ghost immortals, I have seen the offspring of a ghost immortal and a normal human. Although they have physical bodies, the characteristics of their physical bodies are quite similar to those of the spirit demons. This was the benefit of being knowledgeable. The more knowledgeable one was, the easier it was to understand the essence of new things. Wang Daoyuan then asked, their cultivation method can freely convert the power of spiritual sense and spirit power. If it comes from a ghost cultivator, doesn't that mean that ghost cultivators also have this ability? Ancestor Myriad Spirit said with a smile, you are really smart but stupid. It's not like you haven't seen ghost cultivators. Aren't there a few at the gate of the Valley of Beasts? If ghost cultivators have this ability, why would the juniors of the Black Tortoise Hall need to fight with the spirit demons for hundreds of thousands of years? If they catch a ghost cultivator, they can understand the secret technique of converting spirit power into spiritual sense. Ghost cultivators are special because of their ghosts. A large part of their bodies is composed of yin qi, death qi, and other energies. They use all kinds of methods by relying on yin qi and death qi. These energies can be used as spirit power or spiritual sense. However, the more they use, the weaker they will be. The essence of the power of spiritual sense was closely related to yin qi, and yin qi itself was a kind of spiritual qi. Therefore, ghost cultivators can use one thing for two purposes. Yin qi can be used as both spirit power and spiritual sense. The foundation of the human race is always the physical body, and the physical body can't bear too much yin qi. The pure yin qi produced by the Gui water hell flame in your body is better. If it is slightly impure, it will cause serious damage to the body. I have seen one or two ghost immortals. They are in existence between the human race and ghost cultivators. With the protection of the physical body, they don't fear the heavenly might like ghost cultivators. They can also cultivate spirit power and have some special qi and blood power in their bodies. However, they don't have the ability to transform spirit power and spiritual sense. Then what's with this cultivation method? Although the intelligence of spirit demons is not inferior to that of the human race, there are definitely not many of them. Their cultivation method is only a small branch of the human race's inheritance. How did they create a cultivation method that so many human cultivators can't understand? Although they have the bloodline of ghost immortals don't have this ability. It's definitely not a problem of bloodline. Ancestor Myriad Spirits thought for a long time before saying, I guess it should be related to one of their ghost immortal ancestors. Mahayana realm cultivators comprehend the Tao and earth immortals return to the Tao. This ghost immortal should have comprehended a special Tao and used this Tao as the foundation to create a special cultivation method. Of course, it's also possible that the bloodline was affected by this Tao. What do you mean? I don't understand. Ancestor Myriad Spirits replied, you don't need to understand. This is something only peak soul formation cultivators need to understand. You are only at the peak of Yuaniing now. It's useless to think about this. Since this cultivation method exists and can be used, it means that the heavenly Tao allows it. Even if it is affected by the bloodline, it won't be a big problem. The devil race's cultivation method has been improved and humans can cultivate it. Moreover, the spirit demons are also a special branch of the human race. However, it's not easy to improve this cultivation method. Although I know many cultivation methods, I have never cultivated them myself. I am a weapon spirit, completely different from the human race. I can't help you in improving the cultivation method. It will easily take hundreds of years to completely improve a cultivation method. You don't have that time. How about this? Go to the Archaic Mysteries sect and go to the Heavenly Mystery Tower to ask those earth immortals and mighty figures for help. A day in the outside world is a year in the illusion. You can save a lot of time. Chapter 969. It was indeed very suitable to improve the cultivation technique in the Heavenly Mystery Tower. There was a mighty figure in the illusion realm to guide him, and the time flow was 300 times faster. It should be able to shorten the time needed to improve the cultivation technique by 1,000 times. Wang Daoyuan put soul concealment into the space of the soul pearl and said, "This soul demon Grand Elder is already dead. I can't pry into his memories. You have a way to deal with demons. Can you find something from his memories?" Patriarch Myriad Spirits nodded. Ordinary demon beasts are naturally no problem, but this soul demon race is considered a branch of the human race and is very different from the demon race. I'm not sure if I can succeed or not. With that said, he summoned the Myriad Spirits Pagoda and put the corpse of the soul demon Grand Elder into the pagoda. Then, intense spiritual power fluctuations appeared on the Myriad Spirits Pagoda. After a few dozen breaths, Patriarch Myriad Spirits smiled. This soul demon has no physical body, so it's convenient to refine him. It's a pity that before you could kill him, he had already shattered his own soul. Soul demons are the same as ghost cultivators. Their memories are stored in their essence souls. Their essence souls are completely shattered and their memories are gone. The essence soul was the soul origin between the eyebrows of the soul. It was the most important thing for the soul. Human cultivators couldn't control it at all, but ghost cultivators could shatter their essence souls and release all their potential to fight to the death. If one's essence soul was damaged, it would have a great impact on all aspects of life. If it was completely shattered, death was certain. This soul extinction is also a ruthless person. I met them at the edge of the extreme frost icy plains. After a fierce battle I took them down. Although the traces have been cleaned up, the soul demon race has many methods. Maybe I can find some clues. During the time I'm at the Archaic Mystery Sect, I'll have to trouble you to protect the 3 children. Patriarch Myriad Spirits smiled. It's a small matter. I didn't know the background of the soul demons before. Now it seems that they are just special ghost cultivators. With that golden crow mutated species, even a peak rank 5 soul demon wouldn't dare to be presumptuous. I'll get Mingchen to set up some means in the palace. As long as the soul demons dare to come, they can forget about leaving. Patriarch Myriad Spirits knew all the inheritances in the Valley of Beasts and was very knowledgeable. If he dared to say this, he must be confident. With your words, I'm relieved. After that, he left Clear Glass City and returned to the underground cave of the Jade Spring Peak. The commotion caused by the battle with the soul demon was too great. Now that he was too active, it was inevitable that people would associate it with him. It would be better for him to stay at home for a period of time and wait for the limelight to die down before heading to Tianji Sect. At the same time, Wang Daoyuan also used the channels of the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce in Snow Dragon City to investigate the reaction of the demon tribes in the Arctic ice field. Now that the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce had deepened their cooperation with the Ice Plains demon race, the Ice Plains demon race was no longer on guard against the Thousand Rivers Chamber of Commerce. The Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce had merged with the branch of Blood Shadow. Since the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce had entered Snow Dragon City, the spies of Blood Shadow were naturally there as well. It really wasn't difficult to find out information. After that, Wang Daojian would send him a message every 3 days, reporting the reaction of the demon clan in Snow Dragon City. According to the information sent by Wang Daojian, Blood Dragon City had sent many half-beasts and beasts to investigate but to no avail. In the end, there was still a 5th-order demon who personally went to check, but he still couldn't find any flaws. There were beasts and half-beasts who guessed that only Wang Daoyuan could cause such a huge commotion. But there was clearly someone with similar strength fighting over there. There was no one in Beiyuan Xiuxian who could make Wang Daoyuan go to such great lengths. They couldn't even figure out who was the one who did it. Wanting to find out the reason was extremely difficult. The beasts were also very self-aware. No one dared to ask Wang Daoyuan. It was just losing a middle-stage Zifu half-beast. It wasn't worth the effort, so this matter was left unsettled. Wang Daoyuan, previously in Absolute Heaven Abyss, looking for Mo Jun of the devil race who could convert spiritual energy into consciousness. He captured his descendant Mou alive and refined him into a doppelganger. Although Mou's bloodline was mixed, he was still part of the 10,000 Arts demon lineage. The 10,000 Arts demon status in the devil race was relatively high. In the future, when he dealt with the devil race, this doppelganger might be useful. Mou still had a lot of value. He grasped many devil race inheritances. Apart from that, he was also a devil race alchemist. His alchemy skills had also reached middle grade level 5. He also had considerable attainments in devil race formations. His formation skills were also low-grade level 5. Although the devil race and human race's alchemy and formation inheritances were very different, there were also many similarities. With this foundation, it would be very easy to learn the human race's alchemy and formations. Back then, he had obtained the magic tool fragment left behind by Mo Jun in the Myriad Devil's graveyard and given it to Mou to refine. After all, that magic tool fragment was refined from the blood essence of a great power. The power it contained was too great. Back then, Mou only refined a small part of it and raised his cultivation to the late stage of Yuanying. Wang Daoyuan returned from Absolute Heaven Abyss and stayed in Snow Dragon City for a period of time. Several hundred years had passed in the space of the Soul Pearl. Mou had long refined that small magic tool fragment. His cultivation had long reached the peak of Yuanying. Because he didn't have level 6 spiritual energy, he didn't break through to the deity transformation realm. Most of the power obtained from refining the magic tool fragment was integrated into the fleshly body and bloodline. Now Mou's fleshly body strength was not inferior to Wang Daoyuan. With his strength, dealing with the previous rank 5 soul demon should not be a problem. In addition to strength, Mou's bloodline also underwent some changes. Now that he integrated his spiritual power into his bloodline, he could also transform a very small amount of divine sense and blood qi. After all, he was Mo Jun's descendant. After refining his blood essence, it was not strange for him to inherit a part of his abilities. If he could not catch the soul demon, Mou's value to Wang Daoyuan would be very great. But now that he had obtained the inheritance of the soul demon, the relationship between the soul demon and the human race was very close. Learning from the soul demon's inheritance and improving the 5-spirit immortal transformation art, so that it had the function of transforming spiritual power into divine sense, was much better than studying the devil race bloodline. However, Mou was still very valuable. Spiritual power transforming into divine sense, no matter how slow the speed was, had great benefits for future cultivation. In the future, Mou could be nurtured into a hired thug. Unfortunately, he did not have the refining method of Mo Jun's blood-colored Great Seal in his hands. He could only let him slowly develop his bloodline, hoping that he could reach the level of his ancestor Mo Jun. After studying the soul demon's cultivation method on the Jade Spring Peak, he did not make much progress after a year. The previous battle with the soul demon race was gradually forgotten. Wang Daoyuan did not intend to wait any longer. He drove the flying boat away from the Jade Spring Peak and headed west. 3 days later, the flying boat arrived at the Archaic Mysteries Sect's mountain gate. Since the last time the West Sea demon race came ashore and more than half of them were killed by the human race, they had not caused any trouble. The cultivators of other forces stationed here had also left the Archaic Mysteries mountain. Wang Daoyuan had already greeted the Archaic Mysteries sect. As soon as he arrived at the mountain gate, Xian Jiuxiao came out to welcome him. "Brother, I haven't seen you for many years. I didn't expect your cultivation to have reached the peak of Yuanying and become the strongest person in Beiyuan Xiuxian. Back then, when we were traveling in Shanbei, our cultivation was about the same. Now, I have just cultivated to the peak of the Gold Core realm." Xian Jiuxiao was slightly younger than Wang Daoyuan and was now more than 400 years old. "When you succeeded the sect master of the Archaic Mysteries sect, I had something to do in the southern wasteland and could not rush over to celebrate. I hope brother does not blame me." "Brother, you are too serious. The Prime Minister of the Yen Kingdom came to congratulate us with sincerity. Brother, if you want to use the Archaic Mysteries Tower, you must have another enlightenment. The Archaic Mysteries Tower is ready. Please follow me." Wang Daoyuan followed Xian Jiuxiao to the Archaic Mysteries Tower. Xian Jiuxiao bid farewell and left. He went to the 6th floor alone. Here were all cultivation method inheritances. If he wanted to improve his cultivation method according to the soul demon's inheritance, he naturally had to find these powerful figures with more special cultivation methods. After checking the names of these powerful figures, he found the inheritance of Supreme Divinity Shen Bing. This person was also one of the few powerful figures in the Valley of Beasts and was also a sect master of the Valley of Beasts. He had very high attainments in the spiritual sense. Chapter 970. Most importantly, this divine venerable Black Ice was once the Black Tortoise Hall master. Capturing spirit demons was the obsession of the Black Tortoise Hall in the Valley of Beasts. As a qualified Black Tortoise Hall master, it was impossible for him not to be tempted by the secret of the spirit demon. Besides, the Valley of Beasts had a very close relationship with the Yen Kingdom, so he could get close to them. At that time he was not afraid that divine venerable Black Ice would not teach him. Wang Daoyuan sat down on the futon in front of divine venerable Black Ice's inheritance and probed it with his divine sense. He instantly fell into an illusion and came to the endless ice field. In front of him was a handsome man in a black robe, exuding a cold aura. He was meditating with his eyes closed. When he saw Wang Daoyuan come in, he opened his eyes. Then he closed his eyes again, looking indifferent. Your divine sense is not weak. It's almost at the peak of the Yuanying realm. You must have a very strong divine sense cultivation technique. Why are you looking for me? Most of the ice attribute cultivators were like this when their cultivation reached a high level. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Senior, are you interested in spirit demons? Divine Venerable Black Ice's calm expression immediately disappeared. He immediately got up and asked, You mean spirit demons? Wang Daoyuan nodded. I met 2 spirit demons in the extreme cold ice field who wanted to deal with me, so I dealt with them. I killed one and captured the other alive. I also obtained part of the inheritance of the spirit demon race. Unfortunately, the spirit demon with a higher status wanted to die. The spirit demon that was captured alive had a low status and knew little about the spirit demon race. I wanted to ask Patriarch Myriad Spirit to help improve these inheritances, but he was not a human after all and could not help. He asked me to come to the Heavenly Mystery Tower and ask for help. Seeing your inheritance here, I thought that you are good at divine sense, so I came in to ask for your guidance. Divine Venerable Black Ice's face was full of anger. Looking at the strength of your divine sense, you are a rare genius of the human race, but you speak so indifferently. The Valley of Beasts Black Tortoise Hall wanted to catch a spirit demon and spent a lot of money. Nearly 100 generations of people had spent hundreds of thousands of years searching for the soul demon, including many Mahayana cultivators, but none of them had been able to catch a single strand of hair. You, a Yuanying Junior, actually dared to boast like this. You mentioned the myriad spirit's ancestor, and there are traces of the true dragon physical conditioning technique in his cultivation method. He must be an outstanding junior of the Valley of Beasts. Otherwise, I would have made you suffer a little. Wang Daoyuan took out a few jade slips. This is the heritage of the soul demon race. Patriarch Myriad Spirit speculated that the soul demon race should have the bloodline of a ghost immortal. That was why he had these special abilities. Speaking of which, they were considered a special branch of the human race. It's here. If you don't want to look at it, I'll look for other seniors. Senior Divinity Black Ice looked indifferent and continued to rest with her eyes closed. A dozen breaths later, his tightly closed eyes opened a slit, and he couldn't help but glance at the jade slip. After struggling for dozens of breaths, he still could not hold back. He snatched the jade strip and said, On account of ancestor myriad spirits, I'll give you a chance. If you try to deceive me, I won't let you off easily. Then he probed the jade slip with his divine sense and read it very carefully. Wang Daoyuan did not disturb him and just waited quietly. Although the senior divinity Black Ice in front of him was only a divine sense imprint, it was still a divine sense imprint of a powerful expert and retained a large part of senior divinity Black Ice's memories. Even if it was a cultivation method that he had never seen before, its functions, advantages, and flaws could not be hidden from his eyes. After reading for a long time, he let out a long sigh of relief. This cultivation method does have the ability to transform spiritual power into divine sense, and it has a lot to do with the ghost cultivation method. It seems that ancestor myriad spirits' inference was right. The soul demon race is likely to be the descendants of ghost immortals. Unfortunately, this method of escaping into the underworld can only be used by ghost cultivators. This passage to the underworld was temporarily opened, and the space was extremely unstable. As long as something with a physical body entered the passage to the underworld, it would be torn apart by the powerful spatial power. Even a powerful cultivator would not be able to last for too long under such harsh conditions. Otherwise, this could be said to be the strongest escape technique of the human race. The escape technique of the soul demon race was so powerful that many disciples of the Black Tortoise Hall in the Valley of Beasts of every generation went to catch the soul demons, but they all came up empty-handed. Your cultivation is so low. How did you catch the soul demons? I hid my cultivation and disguised myself as a Zifu half-demon. I mixed in the area of the extremely cold ice field, killed a few demon beasts, and found traces of the soul demons. They saw that my physical body and divine sense were far stronger than the average Zifu and suspected that I had treasures on me, so they took the initiative to find trouble with me. In the end, they were caught by me. As for the method I used to catch them, that's my secret. Senior Divinity Black Ice cursed in his heart. When he was at the Mahayana stage, he could not catch the soul demons. Now, a junior at the Yuanying stage could catch the soul demons. It was really embarrassing. Since you don't want to tell me, I won't force you. Being able to see this cultivation method can be regarded as a long-cherished wish. The soul demon race is also a branch of the human race. Their cultivation method is similar to ghost cultivation methods, so it's not too difficult to modify it. How do you want to modify this cultivation method? You have already reached the Yuanying stage and the cultivation method you practice is not weak. You can't change your cultivation method now, right? Do you want to take out the method of transformation between spiritual power and divine sense in this inheritance and transform it into a secret technique? Or do you want to integrate this method into the cultivation method you are practicing now? A separate secret technique was naturally not as good as integrating it into the cultivation method. If it could be integrated into the cultivation method, when he cultivated in the future, he could directly produce a large amount of divine sense power. The secret technique also had to be specially divided to perform, which would consume divine sense and spiritual power. The more processed, the more consumption. It didn't seem to be much different, and it didn't matter when fighting. But after reaching the Mahayana stage, cultivation required a lot of time, and the demand for divine sense power was very high. This little bit of wear and tear could cost him hundreds of years or even thousands of years. Even if Wang Daoyuan's cultivation speed was fast, he was not willing to spend too much extra time. I still want to integrate this method into my own cultivation method, but I have too little knowledge. If I rely on myself, it will probably take hundreds of years to do it. I can only trouble you, senior. I am a divine sense imprint. I stay here to answer questions for future generations. Take out your cultivation method and I will see how to improve it. Wang Daoyuan took out the 5 spirits immortal art and handed it to Divine Master Black Ice. Divine Master Black Ice looked through the 5 spirits immortal art and narrowed her eyes at Wang Daoyuan. You are not a disciple of the Valley of Beasts. Although this cultivation method is integrated into the true dragon physical conditioning technique, the foundation is not the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts. It also has the inheritance of Divine Master Blood Spirit and Sword Immortal Guiyuan. Moreover, this inheritance also has the essence of Sword Immortal Guiyuan's inheritance. Although the Valley of Beasts has a good relationship with Sword Immortal Guiyuan, it is impossible for Sword Immortal Guiyuan to give his core inheritance to a disciple of the Valley of Beasts. Who are you? If you don't tell me, I will make you suffer. Wang Daoyuan could only waste his breath and tell her everything about the Valley of Beasts. He also took out a few core inheritances of the Valley of Beasts and released Yinglong's vision. Only then did Divine Master Black Ice believe him. She sighed. I didn't expect the Valley of Beasts to be in such a state. Fortunately, it still has a sect master like Wang Mingchen and a son of Providence like you. Forget it. For the future of the Valley of Beasts, I have to help you with all my strength. If you fail, the Valley of Beasts will really be gone. The core of your cultivation method is the 5 spiritual power seeds that turn into Yuanying's organs. This idea is very good. The closer Yuanying is to a living person, the easier it will be in the future. With your cultivation method as the foundation, if you want to integrate the method of the spirit demon, you have to create a place similar to the sea of consciousness in Yuanying's body. This sea of consciousness is connected to Yuanying's organs. Combined with the spirit demon's cultivation method, there is still hope for success. Anyway, there is no danger in this illusion. You will just suffer a little. If you try a few more times, you will succeed. Chapter 971. Was easy to say. In this illusion, whether one suffered from chi deviation or died, it did not affect the physical body in the outside world, but the pain could still be experienced. It was not easy to find help for this matter, so it did not matter if he suffered a little. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, senior." After looking at Wang Daoyuan's cultivation method for a long time, Master Black Ice said, "Summon your Yuanying. Let me see the situation inside." It's too time-consuming to only look at the cultivation method to deduce the specific situation. Wang Daoyuan summoned his Yuanying. This Yuanying had grown to more than 3 feet. Good fellow, this Yuanying is not small. Looking at its strength, it is far stronger than ordinary peak Yuanying cultivators. The benefits of your 5-element spiritual power seed turning into Yuanying organs are greater than I imagined. Master Black Ice's eyes shot out 2 golden lights and shone on the Yuanying. After a few breaths he said, "Interesting. I didn't expect your method to be so compatible with the inheritance of divine blood spirit. The effect of spiritual power transforming into chi and blood is so good. When your cultivation reaches the Mahayana realm, you can surpass divine blood spirit." After saying that, he waved his left hand gently, and a ball of ice attribute spiritual power condensed into a Yuanying model. This model was exactly the same as Wang Daoyuan's Yuanying, but it was transparent. I only have ice attribute spiritual power, so it's not easy to imitate your spiritual power seed. You can integrate a part of your spiritual power into this Yuanying model and shape it into Yuanying organs. I don't have 5-element spiritual power, so you can send your spiritual power in. Wang Daoyuan took out some 5-element spiritual fire and integrated it into the Yuanying model. It converged into the appearance of the 5 organs and continued to input spiritual power. Then Master Black Ice used his divine sense to activate the Yuanying model. The spiritual power in the Yuanying model began to circulate between the 5 organs. The circulation method was exactly the same as the 5 spirits' immortal art. During the circulation process, it slowly condensed vital essence and constantly produced qi and blood power. He could condense a Yuanying model out of thin air and use his cultivation technique. It was very difficult for anyone below the mighty figure level to do such a thing. It's a pity that your spiritual power seed is too simple, and the speed at which it produces spiritual power is also limited. You were able to cultivate so quickly mainly because of the spiritual fire. The person who created the seed shouldn't have a high cultivation base, right? Wang Daoyuan nodded. Indeed, my cultivation level is not high. I obtained this cultivation method when I was in the qi refining stage. It was also created by a peak gold core stage cultivator. He didn't take in any other disciples when he was alive, so after creating this cultivation method, he didn't make any improvements. After I broke through Yuanying, I made some improvements to it. The last time he consulted the blood spirit divinity, he had also made some improvements. However, these 2 improvements only increased the functions of the cultivation method, and did not touch the internal structure of the spiritual power seed. Hierarch Black Ice nodded and said, "This spiritual power seed has great potential. You can try to improve it in the future. I'm an ice-type cultivator, so I don't have a deep understanding of the 5 elemental laws. If he acted rashly, it might backfire. You'd better find other mighty figures to improve the internal structure of the spiritual power seed." With that, he began to carefully check the cultivation method of the Soul Demon clan. He also created a complete human meridian model and began to operate the Soul Demon cultivation method according to the model. Although Wang Daoyuan's cultivation level was low, he still had some knowledge. If he wanted to transform the cultivation method of other races into a human cultivation method, he had to start from the lowest level and deduce it step by step. This was also from easy to difficult, and it was easier to find the problems in the cultivation method. Although the Soul Demon clan had a deep relationship with the human race, they didn't have a physical body after all. It was much harder to use a human body to cultivate the Soul Demon cultivation method than to transform the inheritance of the Demon clan. Not long after the human meridian model created by Hierarch Black Ice started to operate the Soul Demon cultivation method, the meridians began to collapse. He immediately stopped operating the cultivation method and adjusted the cultivation method according to the location of the collapsed meridians. This kind of situation happened almost every hour. After more than 2 years, he finally completed the deduction of the qi refining stage cultivation method. After inputting spiritual power into the human meridian model, it could be operated continuously. Moreover, during the operation, it would constantly produce the power of divine sense. Although the amount was very small, as long as it had this function, it was considered a success. Hierarch Black Ice breathed a sigh of relief. Everything is difficult at the beginning. Now that it's on the right track, it will be simple in the future. Then he added a purple mansion to the meridian model. There was not much difference between the foundation establishment stage and the qi refining stage in terms of spiritual power operation. Now he was only verifying the operation of spiritual power so he could skip it directly. The operation of spiritual power was the foundation of the cultivation method, mainly including refining spiritual power and condensing vital essence. In addition, the cultivation method also included the means of using spiritual power. After the deduction of the operation of spiritual power was completed, he needed to consider it. Then he began to deduce the situation after the meridians and purple mansion were connected. This time it was much smoother. It only took 2 or 3 months to deduce it. The operation of spiritual power of the golden core and purple mansion was not much different. After all, there was nothing new. Hierarch Black Ice created a new Yuanying model and integrated it into the human meridian model. This was to deduce the operation of spiritual power during the Yuanying stage. If he wanted to integrate the Soul Demon cultivation method into the 5 spirits immortal transformation technique, it was best to completely transform it into a human cultivation method. It was very difficult to do 2 things at the same time. The integration of the Yuanying model and the human meridian model made the deduction process much more complicated. However, the previous things were straightened out. It only took more than a year to deduce it successfully. Hierarch Black Ice breathed a sigh of relief. This operation of spiritual power can be used to the peak of the soul formation stage. It is too difficult for the Mahayana stage. With my strength, it will take hundreds of years to deduce the Mahayana cultivation method. Although your divine sense cultivation is strong, you can't last hundreds of days in the illusion. Let's stop here. When you cultivate to the peak of the soul formation stage, come to me. The operation of spiritual power is the skeleton of the cultivation method. Now that the skeleton has been formed, the rest is simple. After that, he turned the meridian model in front of him into a complete human model. He moved out of the Yuanying model and began to perfect the cultivation method. This model was like a real person. It absorbed spiritual power, refined, stored it, and cast some simple spells. After that, the human model slowly improved its cultivation. It broke through the foundation establishment stage, opened up the purple mansion, formed the golden core, broke the golden core and formed the nascent soul. Finally, it drew the yin and yang qi to refine the Yuanying and turn it into a primordial spirit. 2 years later, the human model officially broke through to the soul formation stage. The human model also cast a few spells, which were far more powerful than Wang Daoyuan's full-strength attack. Wang Daoyuan was stunned by this method. It was equivalent to creating a soul formation stage warrior casually. The methods of a mighty figure were really unpredictable. Hierarch Black Ice's face, which had been as cold as ice, also showed joy. It's done. This cultivation method has been transformed into a cultivation method of the human race. The dream of nearly 100 generations of disciples of the Black Tortoise Hall in the Valley of Beasts has been fulfilled in my hands. Then he sighed again. It's a pity that others won't know about this. After you leave the illusion, I will forget about these things. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile. Senior, don't worry. When I go back, I will give this cultivation method to Mingchen and make it part of the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts. I will also tell him that this cultivation method was created by Hierarch Black Ice of the Valley of Beasts. In the future, the disciples of the Valley of Beasts will also remember your contribution. Is that true? Of course. This cultivation method will be shared by the Yen Kingdom and the Valley of Beasts. Since it was created by you, you should name it. This cultivation method mainly focuses on the cultivation of spiritual power. The cultivation of spiritual power is relatively ordinary. Let's call it the soul refining art. However, I only tried to deduce this cultivation method with a model. No matter how good the model is, it is still different from the human body. Therefore, this cultivation method still has many imperfections. He had to be extremely careful when he was cultivating to prevent himself from going berserk. Next, you will have to integrate the soul refining art into your cultivation method. It may take a long time. You have been in this secret realm for a few years. Your spiritual power must have been consumed a lot. Why don't you go out and recover your spiritual power first? Chapter 972. Wang Daoyuan had stayed in the illusion for about 6 years, which was equivalent to 6 days outside. Entering the illusion consumed a lot of divine sense. Ordinary Yuanying cultivators could only last for 1 day. He closed his eyes and carefully sensed his body. He found that his divine sense power was not consumed much. So far, only about 1/3 of it had been consumed. He could still stay in the illusion for more than 10 days. If he exited the illusion now, Divine Master Black Ice's divine sense imprint would lose this memory. He could record the soul refining chant first and let Divine Master Black Ice continue to deduce it the next time he came in. However, he also needed time to familiarize himself with the cultivation method. Naturally, it was better to do it in one go. Senior, don't worry. I still have more than half of my divine sense left. It won't be a problem for me to last for more than 10 years. Divine Master Black Ice nodded. Then there's no problem. It's easier to combine the two cultivation methods. The new 5 Spirits Immortal chant should be able to be completed within 5 years. Then, he destroyed the soul formation model he had created before and created a new human model that had just entered the Qi refining stage. He began to deduce the appearance of the combination of the 5 Spirits Immortal chant and the soul refining chant. Although the difficulty was much lower, it was better to deduce it step by step from low to high. After all, the soul refining chant was an immature cultivation method. Unlike Divine Master Blood Spirit, who had a mature cultivation method, he could deduce the situation of the Yuanying stage directly. In order to avoid problems in the actual cultivation of the soul refining chant, it was safer to deduce it from the beginning together with the 5 Spirits Immortal chant. At the same time he could perfect the soul-refining chant again. Similar to the previous steps, he started to deduce the operation of spiritual power. The difficulty of combining two human cultivation methods was much lower. In less than 2 years, he had deduced the operation of spiritual power to the soul formation stage. Then, Divine Master Black Ice continued to perfect the entire cultivation method. A year later he gave a beast skin book to Wang Daoyuan. This cultivation method is enough for you to cultivate to the peak of the soul formation stage. I've verified the soul refining chant again. There are no big loopholes. I've also modified the small loopholes. You've now formed your nascent soul. Unlike the model, you can't start from the beginning. Modifying a Yuanying model is much more difficult. Let's try using the Yuanying model from before. This Yuanying model had been running for 8 or 9 years and so far there had been no problems. That brute, blood spirit supreme god is quite capable. He modified this cultivation method to perfection. There hasn't been any problems after so many years. With a gentle wave of his hand, the Yuanying stopped. Then he pointed at the center of the Yuanying model's eyebrows with his right hand. He closed his eyes and poured his divine sense into Yuanying's glabella. After a dozen breaths of time, there was a ping sound. The center of the Yuanying model's eyebrows shattered, and a small hole appeared. Wang Daoyuan felt a chill run down his spine. If he tried it himself, he would definitely die. Imitating the sea of consciousness in Yuanying is a bit difficult. Then he repaired the Yuanying model and tried again. After nearly a year, he finally opened something similar to the sea of consciousness in this Yuanying model. Divine Master Shenbing called it the internal sea of consciousness. Moreover, the internal sea of consciousness was connected to the internal organs formed by the spiritual power seed. These things were connected to the internal meridians. When the spiritual power was running in Yuanying, part of the spiritual power entered the internal sea of consciousness through the internal meridians and automatically transformed into divine sense. Divine Master Shenbing took out a jade slip and engraved the contents on it. Not bad. You've successfully opened the internal sea of consciousness and run the cultivation method. The modification is complete. This is the method to open the internal sea of consciousness and meridians for the Yuanying model. Take a look and try again. Wang Daoyuan memorized the contents of the jade slip. After he exited the secret realm, these things would be gone. Then he began to extract energy from his own sea of consciousness according to the contents of the jade slip and poured it into the Yuanying model. The energy gathered in the middle of the Yuanying model's eyebrows and gradually opened a small space. When the spiritual power seed was turned into the 5 internal organs of the Yuanying model, part of the internal meridians had been opened and connected to the 5 internal organs. Now he needed to connect the internal meridians with the internal sea of consciousness so that the energy between the 5 internal organs and the internal sea of consciousness could be transformed. There were no obvious flaws in the cultivation method deduced by Divine Master Shenbing. It only took more than a month for the internal sea of consciousness to be completely formed and the internal meridians were completely connected. Wang Daoyuan ran the cultivation method. After the spiritual power entered the Yuanying model, part of it was transformed into qi, blood, and divine sense. There were no problems after running the cultivation method for more than 10 days. Previously, the 5 spirits immortal spell could only be cultivated to the Yuanying model. Now, with the help of Divine Master Shenbing, it was directly deduced to the peak of the apotheosis realm. Divine Master Shenbing nodded with satisfaction. It's finally done. With this cultivation method, your cultivation speed will be greatly increased when you reach the apotheosis realm. What I can do now is to transform the spiritual power into qi, blood, and divine sense. There is still room for improvement. But it's still too early. It won't be too late to improve it when you reach the Mahayana realm. If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and cupped his hands. Senior, please create a secret skill with the same function according to the soul refining spell. Don't you already have a cultivation method? What's the use of a secret skill? Although I have my own cultivation method, there are very few people who can cultivate the 5 spirits immortal spell. Although the soul refining spell can transform spiritual power into divine sense, it only focuses on divine sense and underestimates spiritual power. My 3 children, the eldest, Wang Mingchen, cultivates the heaven-burning palace of fire. The second, Wang Mingren, cultivates the killing sword technique. The third, Wang Mingxian, cultivates the E-wood psychic technique. There's also a grandnephew with a heaven spiritual root who cultivates the black tortoise water-resisting technique. They all have great potential. It's not impossible for them to cultivate to the grand cultivator realm in the future. These cultivation methods are also very suitable for them. I can't ask them to cultivate the divine spell. It's also very difficult to integrate the soul-refining spell's function into these cultivation methods. I want you to create another secret skill for them to cultivate. This way the chances of them reaching the Grand Cultivator realm in the future will be higher. If Wang Daoyuan were to deduce this secret skill by himself, it would take a long time even with the help of the Spiritual Pearl Space's time acceleration. Moreover, there would be many loopholes in the deduced secret skill based on his own knowledge. As the saying goes, don't bother two masters for the same matter. Since Supremacy God Black Ice could deduce the soul-refining spell and integrate it into the Five Spirits Immortal spell, it won't take much to deduce another secret skill. There are really many talents among your descendants. These cultivation methods have been improved by dozens of generations and are already very perfect. It's very difficult to integrate the soul-refining spell. Since they're suitable to cultivate these cultivation methods, it's not suitable for them to change them. It's not bad to cultivate a secret skill. I've deduced this cultivation method twice and modified it countless times. I've already memorized all the contents. It's not difficult to create a secret skill. Give me some time and I'll deduce it. Wang Daoyuan gave him another animal skin book. Supremacy God Black Ice recorded it while deducing and modifying it from time to time. Half a month later he gave the animal skin book to Wang Daoyuan. Okay, you can try to cultivate it. There was a lot of content in this secret skill. It recorded 4 or 5 pages of animal skin. Ordinary cultivation methods were just like that. Wang Daoyuan began to cultivate according to the content recorded in the book. 3 days later he began to use the secret skill. A large amount of pure spiritual power was injected into his sea of consciousness. Soon, it was converted into some divine sense power. Although the conversion speed was not as fast as cultivation methods, it was not bad. It was not a problem to use it in a fight. Supremacy God Black Ice was pleased to see that he had succeeded. You've added another inheritance to the Valley of Beasts. Wang Daoyuan smiled. Senior, don't worry. The Valley of Beasts and the disciples of the Wang family will definitely carry forward the soul-refining spell and this secret skill. When I see your real body in the future, I'll let him have a look and fulfill your lifelong wish. Chapter 973. Supreme Divinity Black Ice was also a follower of Guiyuan Sword Immortal. After that battle, she never returned to the Valley of Beasts. No one knew what the situation was now. The things in the Qinji Tower could not be taken out. When people left the Qinji Tower they could only take away their memories. Wang Daoyuan memorized all the techniques and secret techniques deduced by Supreme Divinity Black Ice. Senior, I've used up a lot of my divine sense. I should take my leave. Supreme Divinity Black Ice nodded. Go. I'll leave the inheritance of the Valley of Beasts to you. Wang Daoyuan bowed again and again before leaving the Qinji Tower. As soon as he focused on his own body he felt exhausted. He had spent more than half of his divine sense in the Qinji Tower after staying in the Qinji Tower for more than 10 days. Especially when he cultivated the improved Five Spirits Immortal technique, it consumed a lot of his divine sense. He ordered his clone in the Spiritual Pearl to record the techniques deduced by Supreme Divinity Black Ice. Then he heaved a sigh of relief. He took out some nectar of the 7-leaf ghost face flower from the Spiritual Pearl and consumed it to recover his divine sense. It was better to go back to his own territory to cultivate the improved Five Spirits Immortal technique. Wang Daoyuan walked out of the Qinji Tower. He did not expect the previous sect master of the Qinji sect to be here. Greetings, Martial Uncle Shintian. Martial Uncle Shintian smiled. No need to be so polite. When you came, I was in seclusion. Please don't blame me. Now that you've come out of the Qinji Tower, I have to treat you well. Martial Uncle, you don't have to do this. I came to the Qinji sect because I had an epiphany during my cultivation. If there's anything you need me to do, just tell me. The Qinji sect also had a powerful inheritance. Although it was not as strong as the Valley of Beasts, it was not to be underestimated. If he wanted to unify Beiyuan in the future, the Qinji sect's attitude was very important. If you want to take, you must give first. Now that the Qinji sect had something to ask of him, he would help as long as he could. Taoist Master Shen Tian smiled awkwardly. Jiu Shao isn't far from the Yuanying realm. She needs to prepare for the formation of her nascent soul. The Heaven's Fate Mountain Spirit Vein had already recovered to the lower grade of the 5th tier, so there was no shortage of spirit energy. His foundation was also very solid, so it would not be a problem for him to form his nascent soul. The other preparations had also been completed. Only the natal magic artifact was slightly lacking. His natal magic artifact is also the yin-yang compass. In terms of talent, he is comparable to my Xian family's first-generation ancestor. Therefore, I want to ask you to help me raise his natal magic weapon to the 5th stage so that it can help him withstand the heavenly tribulation. When he transcends the Yuanying heavenly tribulation, the Dharma artifact will be baptized by the heavenly tribulation and nourished by the heavens and earth. Only then will it be able to nurture an artifact spirit faster. A large amount of time was required to nurture an artifact spirit from a level 5 magic tool. If he could have the help of the lightning tribulation and the gifts of heaven and earth, it would indeed be much faster. The yin-yang compass needed pure yin and pure yang qi to advance quickly. Other than Wang Daoyuan, who had the scarlet yang primordial fire and the gui water death flames, the others were not easy to handle. Martial uncle, you don't have to be so polite. This is just a small matter. I can raise this Dharma artifact to the 5th stage now. Where is brother Jiuxiao? Daoist Shen Tian smiled and said, "It's good to hear martial nephew's words. You came from afar, so we have to play host. I have some gains in the Heavenly Mystery Pagoda, so I have to hurry back to study them. Let's hurry up and help brother Jiuxiao raise the Dharma artifact's grade. Then I'll have to trouble martial nephew." Daoist Shen Tian called Shen Jiuxiao over, and the three of them went to the archaic mystery sex refining room. Shen Jiuxiao took out a level 4 yin-yang compass and said, "Thank you, elder brother. When the West Sea demon race invaded, in order to increase the strength of the human race, he helped restore the archaic mystery sex ancestral yin-yang compass." Shen Jiuxiao's yin-yang compass looked no different from the archaic mystery sex ancestral yin-yang compass. The nurturing method should be similar. He only needed to provide pure yin and pure yang qi and leave the rest to Shen Jiuxiao. He extracted pure yin and pure yang qi from the scarlet yang true fire and gui water death flames and injected them into the yin-yang compass. Shen Jiuxiao activated the compass to refine the pure yin and pure yang qi. Because this yin-yang compass never had an artifact spirit, the pure yin and pure yang qi would not be divided by the artifact spirit. The speed of advancement was also much faster. In just 5 or 6 days the compass had been raised to level 5. Previously the compass emitted a rich yin and yang qi, but now, after the advancement, it was more restrained, and the yin and yang qi emitted was very weak. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's done. I can't help with the nurturing. Brother Jiuxiao, this yin-yang compass was forcefully raised to level 5 after all, and there's still a big gap in its foundation. If you rush to use it, its grade may drop, so it's best to nurture it for a period of time. Martial uncle, I still have to go back and digest the enlightenment I gained from this trip, so I won't stay here." Cultivators should naturally focus on cultivation. Wang Daoyuan had gained enlightenment, and Daoist Shen Tian could not stop him, so he could only personally send him out of the Heavenly Mystery Mountain. "Martial nephew Daoyuan, you must walk around more when you have time. I'll be a good host then." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I'll come again when I have time. Martial uncle, you don't have to send me off." After saying that, he set up the flying boat and headed east. 3 days later, Wang Daoyuan returned to Qingli city of the Yan Kingdom. When he came to the imperial study, Wang Mingchen saw him return and quickly asked, "Father, did you succeed?" Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Let's talk in the secret room." Wang Mingchen followed Wang Daoyuan and came to the secret room behind the imperial study. Ancestor Myriad Spirits flew out impatiently and asked, "How is it? Is the cultivation method completed?" Wang Daoyuan took out a thick beast skin book and handed it to Wang Mingchen. This was deduced by divine venerable black ice according to the inheritance of the spirit demon. There's a cultivation method called the spirit refining art, and there's also a secret technique created according to it. Whether it's the cultivation method or the secret technique, it can transform spiritual power into spiritual power. When he learned about the current situation of the Valley of Beasts, he tried his best and spent more than 10 years to deduce these things for me. He wants to help me win the future battle of destiny so that the Valley of Beasts can have a chance to rise again. I've already promised divine venerable black ice in the Tianji Pagoda that these inheritances will be shared by the Wang family and the Valley of Beasts. Mingchen, I'll leave these inheritances to you. This is a method that even mighty figures and earth immortals desire. You can't easily reveal it. In the future, whether it's the disciples of the Wang family or the disciples of the Valley of Beasts, only the core people can cultivate this secret technique. Wang Mingchen solemnly took the beast skin book and said, "Father, don't worry. I'll take good care of these things." Ancestor Myriad Spirits took the beast skin book and looked at it carefully. He sighed and said, "It's indeed Black Ice's work. I followed him for more than 5,000 years. More than 70,000 years ago, he also fought to the death against the devil race. I didn't expect the remnant divine sense imprint to be of such great help. He handed the inheritances to Wang Mingqian and gave him some instructions. Then he left Qingli City and returned to the cave abode under the Jade Spring Peak. Previously, the cultivation results in the illusion realm were all illusory. Now that he was in reality, he had to start all over again. The illusion realm of the Tianji Pagoda was extremely brilliant. Cultivation techniques that could be cultivated normally in the illusion realm could also be cultivated in the outside world. Wang Daoyuan followed the cultivation technique modified by divine venerable black ice and opened up the internal spiritual sea and internal meridians of the Yuanying. With the previous experience, it was much easier this time. In just over 10 days, the internal spiritual sea and internal meridians were successfully opened. Wang Daoyuan extracted spiritual power from the underground lava, and this spiritual power entered the Yuanying. About 5% of the spiritual power entered the internal spiritual sea and was transformed into divine sense power. With the nourishment of this divine sense power, Wang Daoyuan's soul strength increased very quickly. Originally, his divine sense cultivation and the strength of his soul were already very close to the limit of a Yuanying cultivator. Now that he had a huge amount of divine sense power to nourish it, in less than a year, the strength of his soul could no longer increase at all. His divine sense and physical body had already reached the limit of a Yuanying cultivator. Cultivators of the same level could not withstand a single blow in front of him. Whether it was through physical combat or using spells, he could easily defeat his opponent. Chapter 974. His essence, energy and spirit had reached their limits. If he couldn't break through to the semi-god realm, there was no room for him to improve his strength. If he wanted to break through to the semi-god realm, he could only go to the Qixingxi Xiuxian community. He had offended the Soul Demon clan by killing the Soul Demons. They couldn't find him yet, but there was no such thing as an impenetrable wall in the world. He was the strongest person on the surface in Qixingxi Xiuxian, so he was the #1 suspect. When he left Beiyuan, he left Jia Qi and the ancestor of myriad spirits. The demons were no threat. But other than him, no one else had the means to take down the soul demons. Wang Mingqian's cultivation was too low. He was only at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. With his strength, he couldn't exert much of the strength of the 10,000 Spirits Pagoda. It was good enough that he could protect himself. He learned from Hun Ying's clone that Hun Ju, who could fight with him, was only the first elder of the soul demons. The soul demons had a foundation of hundreds of thousands of years. There should be many who were as strong as Hun Ju. If these guys went crazy, the ancestor of myriad spirits could only protect Qingli City. Before he left, he had to leave some means for his family to deal with the soul demons. Wang Daoyuan left the Jade Spring Peak and came to the imperial study of the Qingli City. Mingqian, where is the ancestor of myriad spirits? Father, the ancestor is teaching Mingren and Mingxian in the secret room behind us. Wang Daoyuan took out a few pill bottles. I have something to discuss with him. This is the Jade Marrow Essence Cultivating Pill. Take the time to cultivate during this period. After you reach the nascent soul realm, I can go to the Qixingxi Xiuxian community without worry and look for an opportunity to break through to the semi-god realm. Wang Mingqian took the pill bottles. Father, don't worry. The concentration of spiritual qi in Qingli City is very close to the 4th level high quality. My cultivation speed is much faster than before. I can break through to the late stage of the Golden Core realm in 10 years. Wang Daoyuan nodded and walked to the secret room behind the imperial study. As soon as Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian saw Wang Daoyuan, they quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, Father." They were now over 20 years old and had reached the 2nd level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Wang Mingxian's Yi-Wood spiritual body was of great help to her cultivation. His cultivation was already very close to the 3rd level of Foundation Establishment, which was much faster than Wang Mingren's. There's no need to be so courteous. All these years, Imperial Father has been busy with his cultivation and hasn't been able to take care of you. Wang Mingren cupped his hands and said, "Over the years, my younger sister and I have learned a lot about Imperial Father's past. Back then, when you were 16, you left the mountain to work in the family store. Now that we're adults, we can cultivate in the palace all day long. We have as many resources as we want. Compared to when you were young, you are already very superior. You don't need any other care." Wang Daoyuan patted him on the shoulder and said, "Mingren is sensible now. Go somewhere else to cultivate. I have something to discuss with Ancestor Myriad Spirits." The two nodded and left the secret chamber. Myriad Spirits' ancestor glanced at him and said with a smile, "Perfect essence, energy and spirit. Even when the Valley of Beasts was at its peak, no one could achieve this. Unless you can break through the current cultivation system, you can only continue to improve your essence, energy, and spirit after breaking through to the semi-god realm. It seems that you want to go to the Qixing Si Xiuxian community again to find an opportunity to break through to the semi-god realm. Before leaving, I was worried and wanted to leave some means to protect the Yan kingdom. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "You're really shrewd with age. You've guessed my thoughts. Originally, I wanted to leave my clone, Jiaqi. He is already at the late stage of yuanying and has learned many of my methods. In addition, I refined some sword puppets. Even if the demon clan attacks in large numbers, they will only be courting death. But previously, I captured a spirit demon alive and killed a spirit demon grand elder. It can be said that I have formed a grudge with the spirit demon clan. Although the spirit demons don't dare to be arrogant in the human clan, they must be vigilant. After all, the spirit demons come and go without a trace. They secretly attack the Yan kingdom and no one can stop them. The spirit demon grand elder I killed before was already at the top of the semi-god realm. The spirit demon clan has existed for hundreds of thousands of years and has a deep foundation. There must be many spirit demons of the same strength. I'm worried that after the matter of capturing the spirit demon is exposed, the spirit demons will attack the Yan kingdom. With you guarding the city, there is no need to worry about the Qingli city. But the Yan kingdom is so big and the clansmen are scattered everywhere. It will be difficult for you to resist the attacks of the spirit demons alone. I want to refine a Dharma artifact that is specially used to restrain the spirit demons. Any cultivator at the early stage of yuanying can use it to restrain a peak stage yuanying spirit demon. Patriarch Myriad Spirits pondered for a long time before saying, "The spirit demons are special ghost cultivators. Their entire bodies are very similar to ghosts. Ghosts are afraid of many things such as thunder, the sun, and the divine beasts of the White Tiger clan." Legend has it that the son of the Qinyuan realm was transformed from the first golden crow in the world. The bloodline of the golden crow has a great restraining effect on the spirit demons. Your red-feathered crow is good. Although he hasn't broken through to the mid-grade of the 5th level, he can borrow the power of the sun to fight enemies. When dealing with the human clan, this method can only increase 1 or 2 points of strength. But when dealing with evil, the power is extremely terrifying. Ming Chen's Nanming primordial fire naturally has a similar function, but his cultivation is still too low. If your fat tiger can break through to the 5th level, it will be even better. The Soul Eater Tiger is the guardian of the gate to the underworld, and the spirit demons can only be regarded as his snack. There is also the person in charge of the treasure tripod branch of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Although he is only at the middle stage of the yuanying realm, he has inherited the Purple Thunder Divine Flame of the Purple Thunder deity. This divine flame contains extremely powerful thunder and fire laws, which is the nemesis of all evil. With them, even if the spirit demons come, 1 or 2 peak stage yuanying realm cultivators won't be able to take advantage of them. I know that. Master plans to stay at Yuchuan Peak for a long time, and with the Linglong Pagoda, it won't be a problem to deal with a peak stage yuanying spirit demon. I have the red yang primordial fire, so the red-feathered crow won't be of much help to me. It's not bad to stay and watch over the place. I'm just worried that there will be too many experts from the spirit demons, and Master and the red-feathered crow's cultivation is insufficient. You won't be able to deal with them. If you can refine a magic artifact specifically to restrain the spirit demons, give it to Jiaqi to use. With his cultivation and magic artifacts, it will be a piece of cake for him to take down a peak stage yuanying spirit demon. Patriarch Myriad Spirits thought for a long time before saying, "The spirit demons appear and disappear unpredictably, and you are the first person to catch a spirit demon. Generations of disciples in the Valley of Beasts have never even seen a spirit demon, so there is no magic artifact specifically designed to deal with them. There are quite a few magic artifacts to deal with ghost cultivators. We can modify them to restrain the spirit demons. Among the magic artifacts to deal with ghost cultivators and other evil spirits, there is a magic artifact called the Heavenly Yang Mirror. This thing is refined from a Yang attribute spirit item and the soul of the Golden Crow bloodline. However, you have the true fire of the Scarlet Sun sealing some rootless fire in the mirror can also have the same effect. This mirror can emit a beam of light containing pure Yang energy, which is extremely effective against evil spirits. In addition, the Heavenly Yang Mirror can also absorb sunlight and store it in the mirror. It can be released when facing an enemy and it is extremely powerful. When facing an enemy, it can directly reflect sunlight. The effect is not bad. However, the spirit Qi in Xiuxian has just recovered to level 5, and level 5 refining materials are extremely rare. To deal with a peak stage Yuanying spirit demon, it is best to have a level 5 high-grade heavenly yang mirror. In terms of refining materials, you will have to think of a way. Wang Daoyuan thought for a moment and took out a piece of metal the size of a palm. As soon as this material appeared, it constantly released rich yang energy just like the sun. Patriarch Myriad Spirits looked and nodded. Level 6 mid-grade brilliant sun gold, good stuff. If your refining skills are high enough, refining a level 6 high-grade heavenly yang mirror will be a small matter with this thing. However, your refining skills are only at level 5 high-grade. It is too wasteful to use this thing rashly. It is better to use a little brilliant sun gold as an auxiliary material and add it to other yang attribute materials. To refine a level 5 high-grade heavenly yang mirror, adding a piece of brilliant sun gold the size of a soybean is enough. Chapter 975. This piece of dazzling sun gold was obtained by Wang Daoyuan in the 7 Stars secret realm. At that time he had just passed the nascent soul heavenly tribulation and was absorbing the gifts of heaven and earth. Perfected Golden Light of the 7 Stars Alliance wanted to take advantage of the situation but was killed instead. This piece of dazzling sun gold was found in his storage bag. At that time he was only a 4th rank refiner and could not use a 6th rank mid-grade material. It would be a pity to sell such a good refining material, so he kept it in the space of the spirit pearl next to the red yang true fire. Unfortunately, the grade of the spirit fire in the space was not high enough to upgrade it. After so many years he could only barely maintain a 6th rank mid-grade. Who would have thought that this thing would come in handy? Wang Daoyuan asked, since only the bean-sized dazzling sun gold is used, how should I choose the other materials? Patriarch Myriad Spirits smiled. That depends on what good things you have. Even if you have the dazzling sun gold, other materials are also very important to refine a 5th rank superior grade heavenly sun mirror. It's just that the requirements for the grade are lower. A 5th rank low-grade refining material is more or less enough. It's best if there are yang or fire attribute spiritual materials. Non-attribute spiritual materials are also fine, but the effect is much worse. The refined heavenly sun mirror needs to be nurtured for a long time to achieve the desired effect. Wang Daoyuan still had some 5th rank refining materials. He had obtained a lot of them in the Qixing Si Xiuxian community. In Beiyuan, he had also collected many special 4th rank superior grade refining materials. These materials used to be of very high grades, but without the nourishment of high-grade spirit energy, their grades slowly decreased. After Wang Daoyuan obtained these materials, he put them in the space of the spirit pearl. With the spirit fire of the corresponding attribute to replenish his spiritual energy, many of them had recovered to the 5th rank mid-grade. He could still take out some 5th rank mid-grade materials. He took out a fist-sized piece of metal material. It was still flickering with a pale yellow light and emitting a scorching aura. Patriarch Myriad Spirits was still knowledgeable. This golden sun iron crystal is a bit interesting. It's a 5th rank mid-grade refining material and has a lot of yang energy. Most importantly, the material itself is very bright after it is refined. It is very suitable to be used as a mirror. This golden sun iron crystal was obtained when he explored the Purple Gold River branch in the Valley of Beasts. At that time, it was only a 4th grade high-grade crystal. It had been more than 100 years since he had obtained the golden sun iron crystal. All these years he had placed it beside the scarlet yang real fire in the spirit pearl space. It had absorbed a lot of level 5 spirit chi and pure yang chi. Wang Daoyuan took out another piece of wood. Patriarch Myriad Spirits sighed and said, "You really have a lot of good stuff. It's a middle-grade tier 5 Fusang spiritual wood. This spirit wood was much stronger than the blood fire hibiscus in the divine weapon pavilion. It was a pity that it had already withered and died. It was the most suitable material to refine the outer frame of the heavenly sun mirror. Since they were both yang attribute spirit materials, they should be able to complement each other. The hibiscus spirit wood could also increase the power of the scarlet yang true fire. With this, the power of the heavenly yang mirror could be increased even more. Although I know how to refine artifacts, I have never participated in refining artifacts. In terms of actual operation, I can't help much. You still have to rely on yourself." The blood fire hibiscus in the spirit pearl space was nourished by the scarlet yang real fire and had the scarlet feather crow resting in it. It was already very close to the real hibiscus tree. Even Patriarch Myriad Spirits couldn't tell that it was the blood fire hibiscus. I have the Xianxian cauldron. It has followed the Xianxian supreme god for thousands of years. It has extremely rich experience in refining artifacts. It will have no problem guiding me. Patriarch Myriad Spirits took out a few blank jade slips and engraved some things on them. This is the refining method of the heavenly yang mirror. With the Xianxian cauldron, I don't need to do anything. Wang Daoyuan took the jade slip and looked at it carefully. The refining method of the heavenly yang mirror is not difficult. With the help of the Xianxian cauldron, I should be able to succeed in one try. The earth fire room in Clear Glass City is too noisy. I'd better return to Jade Spring Peak. Ever since the establishment of the Yen Kingdom, Clear Glass City had become the core of the Wang family. A large number of cultivators were gathered in Clear Glass City. The headquarters of the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce was also here. Naturally, there were many alchemists and artificers. 4 or 5 large earth fire rooms had been dug in the city, but they were barely enough. Every earth fire room was very lively. Wang Daoyuan left Clear Glass City and returned to Jade Spring Peak. He came to the earth fire room in the underground cave abode, took out the Xianxian cauldron, and injected it with the red yang true fire. He brought out all the tools he knew about artificing and began to prepare the materials. As a mid-grade 6-tier material, the brilliant sun gold was really not easy to deal with. He first placed it in the Xianxian cauldron to be calcined. After more than 10 days it softened a little. Wang Daoyuan took out the origin returning sword and cut off a small piece of the brilliant sun gold the size of a soybean. He kept the rest in the space of the spirit pearl to continue nurturing. After that, he needed to completely fuse the brilliant sun gold and the golden sun iron crystal together. It took half a month to soften it and even longer to completely melt it. He also had to use all his strength to activate the red yang true fire, so he couldn't keep it in the space of the spirit pearl. It took him more than 3 months to complete the smelting. If not for the help of the Xianxian cauldron's low artifact spirit, Wang Daoyuan really couldn't handle this brilliant sun gold by himself. The rest of the work wasn't difficult. He only needed to forge the processed materials. The smelted golden sun iron crystal was forged into a mirror surface. The blood fire hibiscus wood was made into a mirror frame, and some golden sun iron crystal essence was smelted into it to increase its strength. Then, the back of the mirror and the mirror frame were inscribed with artifact patterns. A piece of meteorite iron needed to be placed between the mirror frame and the mirror surface to carry the red yang true fire. With the guidance of the Xianxian cauldron's artifact spirit, there were no mistakes in the entire process. After doing all this, he drew out the red yang true fire and placed it on the meteorite iron. Then he assembled the mirror frame and meteorite iron together and smelted it with the red yang true fire. After the 3 were fused into one, he kept it in the Xianxian cauldron. All that was left was to nurture it. At this step, the refining of the artifact was a success. As long as the crafting cauldron wasn't overturned, there was no possibility of failure. However, the quality of the nurturing had a great impact on the grade of the artifact. If a 5th-grade artifact was nurtured well, it could become an upper-grade 5th-grade artifact. If it wasn't nurtured well, it could drop to a lower-grade 5th-grade artifact. Wang Daoyuan didn't have anything else to do, so he didn't put the Xianxian cauldron into the space of the spiritual pearl. Instead, he nurtured it himself outside. As the nurturing time increased, the spiritual energy fluctuations coming from the Xianxian cauldron became stronger. 2 years later, the spiritual energy fluctuations stabilized, which meant that the heavenly sun mirror was completely nurtured. He took out the heavenly sun mirror from the Xianxian cauldron, and a pale golden light shot into the sky. This golden light contained a strong yang qi. If it wasn't deep underground, this dazzling light could be seen from thousands of miles away. After a dozen breaths, the golden light gradually faded, and it looked like an ordinary mirror. The entire heavenly sun mirror was about a foot in diameter. The surface of the mirror was pale golden and polished until it was smooth. It could be used as a dressing mirror. The frame of the mirror was fiery red and carved with various patterns. There was also a golden crow sculpture on the back. It had reached the upper grade 5th grade and was close to the peak of the 5th grade. Wang Daoyuan injected fire attribute spirit energy into the heavenly sun mirror, and a pale golden light shot out. Wherever the golden light went, the rocks ignited with pale golden flames. Although he didn't have a ready-made peak-grade Yuanying spirit demon to practice with, Wang Daoyuan could still see its power. The Hunju he killed in the Arctic icy plains wouldn't last more than a breath under this heavenly sun mirror. As long as he was illuminated, even if he could escape into the underworld in time, he would inevitably be severely injured. If he reacted slightly slower, he might not be able to escape in time and would be burned to death by the golden light of the heavenly sun mirror. The heavenly sun mirror was ready. Although this Dharma artifact was powerful, it had to be able to find the target. The soul-chasing compass was very useful for searching for spirit demons. Wang Daoyuan wanted to keep one for himself, and it would be best if Qingli City also had one. In the future, this heavenly sun mirror would be given to Jiaqi to use, so he naturally had to have a soul-chasing compass. He also needed to refine 2 yin-yang compasses. Shui Quan's clone in the Spirit Pearl had already refined the prototype of the soul-chasing compass. The rest was up to Wang Daoyuan to inscribe the inscriptions. After another 2 months, he finally finished refining and nurturing the 2 soul-chasing compasses. Chapter 976. Wang Daoyuan planned to head to the Qixingxi Xiuxin community, but this matter was not urgent. If he stayed in Beiyuan Xiuxin, even if the spirit demons knew that he killed Hunju, it would not be a big deal. As long as there were no Stage 6 spirit demons, Stage 5 spirit demons would be courting death. Wang Daoyuan not only wanted to go to the Sea of 7 Stars to find an opportunity to break through, but also to establish the Wang family's power there. The Qixingxi Xiuxin community was also north of the decimating heaven abyss. Although the 2 places were separated by the vast sea, the 10,000 corpse spiritual master could come over with his demon beast avatar. Other Imperial Regency disciples could also come to Beiyuan with their demon beast avatar. If left alone, it would be a huge threat to Beiyuan Xiuxin. Moreover, Beiyuan Xiuxin had declined to this extent, but there was still a Son of Providence. The resources in the Sea of 7 Stars were much better than in Beiyuan. The possibility of another Son of Providence appearing was very high. If he did not make arrangements in advance, when that Son of Providence unified the Sea of 7 Stars, Beiyuan would only be conquered. There was the Blue Dragon ruins in the east of the Sea of 7 Stars, which had a Stage 7 spirit vein. If there were Mahayana cultivators hiding there, then the north of the decimating heaven abyss would belong to them. 4 Grand Ascension Stage cultivators, spatial barriers were no big deal. If he wanted to make the north of the decimating heaven abyss into his backyard, he had to eliminate this threat. The Blue Dragon ruins was too dangerous. Those below the Mahayana realm had no confidence in surviving, so he could not think about it for the time being. However, he still had to make plans in the Sea of 7 Stars. It was still unknown when the War of Providence would break out. If he did not make preparations as soon as possible, it would be too late when the War of Providence approached. If he could not subdue the Qixingxi Xiuxin community, there was no hope of winning the War of Providence. The 2 cultivation worlds were too far apart. Even a Stage 5 flying ship would take several years to fly. Wang Daoyuan had the Spirit Gathering Pearl and could use the space of the Spirit Gathering Pearl to restore its spiritual power. In the future, if he were to transfer his clansmen over, he would not be able to drift on the sea all day. If the clansmen relied on spirit stones to drive the flying boat, a few 100,000 high-grade spirit stones would be gone after a single trip. With the Yen Kingdom's resources, how could they withstand such a consumption? Moreover, the 2 places could not be cut off. Otherwise, a portion of the clansmen would be stranded overseas, and it would be difficult to ensure that they were united with the clan. If he wanted to use Beiyuan and the Sea of 7 Stars as his rear, he must have the ability to mobilize resources. There had to be communication between the 2 places, and they had to be able to transport supplies to each other. This required the establishment of a transfer station between the 2 places, as well as a relatively reliable large-scale flying artifact. The distance between the 2 places was too far. It was impossible to set up a transfer station in a short period of time. The only thing he could do now was to create a new type of flying magic tool. He didn't ask for too much. At the very least, this kind of magic tool had to be fast while conserving spiritual energy. Whether it was using the Spirit Gathering Pearl, spirit stones, or cultivators to drive it, conserving spiritual energy was very important. Wang Daoyuan had always had this idea, but unfortunately he didn't have the time to do it. Now that his essence, energy and spirit had been cultivated to the extreme, and his elixir, equipment and talisman arrays had also reached the upper grade of the 5th level. Without a large number of materials to practice, it would be difficult to make further progress. There was really not much to do, and now was not a good time to leave. He just happened to have time to think about this matter. He had already planned the improvement route. When he refined the flying kite in the foundation establishment stage, it had already proved that the aerodynamics of his previous life was still applicable in the Qianyuan realm. The core of the flying boat and the flying warship were mainly the floating array and the propulsion array. Needless to say, the propulsion array was to provide speed for the flying boat. The floating array provided the flying boat with the power to ascend. The heavier the things were, the more spiritual energy it would consume. The 2 cultivation worlds were so far apart. It was not easy to travel, so the more people and materials, the better. The space needed was naturally very large and the weight was not small. However, 2 wings could be added to the flying boat to provide lift. In this way, part of the work of the floating array would be shared, and the consumption of spiritual energy would naturally be reduced. Air resistance also existed. The faster it flew, the greater the resistance. This could be done by improving the shape of the flying boat to reduce the air resistance. If it flew at the same speed, the resistance would be reduced. The propulsion needed to provide the propulsion array would also be reduced, and the spiritual energy consumed by the array would naturally be reduced. When improving the flying boat, the core did not need to be changed. Some improvements were mainly made to the outer shell. The reference objects were simple. The planes in his previous life and the demon birds in this life could be used. It was very difficult to imitate the planes in his previous life. He only knew the general appearance and knew nothing about the details. It was easier to imitate demon birds. Among the industries of the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce, there were also spirit beasts and demon birds. Any type of demon bird could be easily found. Among the spirit beasts that Wang Daoyuan raised, there were the red-feathered crow, the golden feather that was only at the 2nd level, and an avatar, the gray roc. The red-feathered crow and the gray roc were known for their speed. The effect of imitating their appearance should be good. When modifying the appearance, the flying boat did not need to be of a high grade. Just casually refine a few 2nd-level flying boats and compare them with ordinary flying boats of the same level, the effect of the modification could be seen. Wang Daoyuan was too lazy to do this. He just left it to the avatar in the space of the spirit bead. The level of pill refinement, artifact, and talisman array could reach the 4th level. Even if he did not focus on array formation and artifact refinement, he could easily refine a 2nd-level flying boat. A few days later, the avatar refined 3 2nd-level upper-grade flying boats. One of them was a very ordinary flying boat about 10 feet long. The other 2 flying boats were more strange in appearance. One looked like a crow, imitating the appearance of the red-feathered crow. The other looked like an eagle, imitating the gray roc. The length of the 2 flying boats was about 10 feet. When modifying the appearance, Wang Daoyuan did not intend to play any tricks. The wings of the 2 flying boats were fixed. The outer shell of the 2 modified flying boats was completely sealed, and there was a door on the side for entry and exit. The avatar had already tested the basic functions in the space of the spirit bead. Levitation and slow flight were not a problem. However, the space of the spirit bead was too small. The flying boat could not be used, so there was no way to test its speed. Wang Daoyuan left Jade Spring Peak with the flying boat and came to the vicinity of the Heaven/Mountain Range. The industries near Jade Spring Peak were not developed by the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce, so there were no people here. He summoned his avatar, Qin Jiaoyi, and Liao Yang from the space of the spirit bead. The 3 of them each controlled a flying boat to verify the speed and spirit energy consumption. The 3 flying boats flew north for an hour. The unmodified flying boat was left more than 100 miles behind. This flying boat could fly about 2,000 miles in 2 hours. Now it was left more than 100 miles behind in an hour. The speed of the 2 modified flying boats was more than 10% higher than the original version. There was no difference in speed between the 2 modified flying boats. The rock flying boat was slightly faster, but it was only a few miles ahead. The 3 flying boats gathered together. Wang Daoyuan checked the spirit-gathering pearls on the 3 flying boats. These spirit-gathering pearls were all high-grade 2nd level. The spirit-gathering pearls on the unmodified flying boat had consumed more than 70% of their spirit energy. The flying boat that looked like a red-feathered crow only consumed 50% of its spirit energy. The flying boat that looked like a gray roc consumed even less spirit energy. It only consumed about 40% of its spirit energy. This was normal. After all, rocs were fast and relied on themselves to fly. When the golden crow lineage used its extreme speed, it transformed into a sun and relied on its divine ability. In terms of appearance, rocs were more suitable for flying. This was only under the situation of flying 2,000 miles in 2 hours. In the future, when building high-grade flying boats, the faster they were, the greater the air resistance. A flying boat that looked like a roc would have an even greater advantage. The subsequent improvements were all based on this flying boat that looked like a roc. Wang Daoyuan put away the 3 flying boats and the 2 avatars and returned to Jade Spring Peak. In the space of the spirit bead, the avatars continued to improve the flying boat. On the original foundation, they made it fly faster and consume less spirit energy. Chapter 977. Before the appearance of the flying boat reached the best state, he would continue to refine a high-grade 2nd-tier flying boat. When Wang Daoyuan was at the Foundation Establishment realm, He had planted many second-tier spiritual trees in the space of the spiritual pearl, especially the golden-threaded jade spirit peach. After obtaining the Yi-Wood Chengkuan gourd, he transplanted those peach trees into the gourd. He also expanded some of them and could now be used to refine artifacts. The second-tier spiritual trees were extremely abundant. It was not a big deal to refine hundreds of such high-grade second-tier flying boats. A few days later, the clone refined another flying boat. This flying boat was based on the rock flying boat. This time, it was mainly to improve the angle of the two wings of the flying boat. The flying posture of the rock was not unchanged. Usually when flying it would always try its best to open its wings. When attacking it would always half retract its wings. The first rock flying boat that was refined imitated the usual flying posture of the rock. Its wings were straight. The newly refined flying boat imitated the posture of the rock when it attacked. Its wings were half retracted. Once again he took the flying boat out for testing. It also flew for an hour. The first rock flying boat flew for nearly 1,200 kilometers and consumed 40% of its spiritual power. The second rock flying boat flew for nearly 1,400 kilometers and consumed about 50% of its spiritual power. The second rock flying boat's speed increased by a lot, and its spiritual power consumption also increased by a lot. If Wang Daoyuan used this flying boat himself, the spiritual power of the spirit gathering pearl was infinite. Naturally, it would only pursue speed. However, if he wanted to use it to transfer his clansmen in the future, he naturally had to consider the spiritual power consumption and try to find a balance between speed and spiritual power consumption. After more than a year of continuous exploration, he finally determined two types of rock flying boats. One was a unilateral pursuit of speed. It flew for more than 1,600 kilometers in an hour, and its spiritual power consumption reached more than 60%. The other was a pursuit of balance. It flew for more than 1,300 kilometers in an hour, and its spiritual power consumption was 45%. The former was the type that Wang Daoyuan used for his own use and was named the Lei Peng flying boat. The latter was used to transfer and transport his clansmen in the future, as well as to connect the two cultivation worlds. It was named the Kuan Peng flying boat. The Lei Peng flying boat was for his own use and did not need to be too big. Even if he brought along Zhou Wan, it wouldn't take up much space. 100 feet was enough. In the future, the Kuan Peng flying ship would have to transport a large number of clansmen. Naturally, it would be better if it was bigger. It had to be at least 300 feet long. Expanding it from 100 zhang to 100 zhang was not a simple matter. Some modifications were needed. Any kind of mature magic tool would have to go through countless modifications and improvements. Even though Wang Daoyuan had improved the flying boat, he had not improved the core. However, the speed of Lei Peng's flying boat was far superior to that of ordinary flying boats. His speed had increased by as much as 60%, so it was very likely that there would be problems. Although he didn't plan to refine this flying boat into a flying warship, he still needed a tool pattern to increase its strength. When the shape of the flying boat changed, the tool patterns had to change as well. He would come up with an improvement plan, and his clone would refine it in the space of the spirit pearl. After that, he carried out all sorts of destructive experiments such as flying for tens of thousands of miles at full power. While flying at high speed, it had to stop and turn suddenly. Under such extreme conditions, the flaws of the flying boat were easily exposed. After making up for the many flaws, Wang Daoyuan began to refine the Tier 5 Lei Peng flying boat with ease. He didn't have many Tier 5 mid-grade refining materials, so he could only use them to refine the core of a Tier 5 high-grade flying boat. The outer shell was casual, and using Tier 5 low-grade refining materials was already very good. After working for 5 to 6 years, Wang Daoyuan refined a Tier 5 high-grade Lei Peng flying boat. There was no need to rush to refine the Kuan Peng flying boat for the time being. After all, there wasn't even a place to stay in the Sea of Seven Stars. This time, only Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan were going to the Sea of Seven Stars. He wouldn't bring the other clansmen. It wouldn't be too late to move the clansmen over after finding a place to stay. After refining the flying boat, Wang Daoyuan left the Jade Spring Peak and arrived near the Heaven/Mountain Range. He took out the flying boat and flew north along the Heaven/Mountain Range. The speed of this Lei Peng flying boat was about 40,000 kilometers in 2 hours. After killing Old Master Huang in the Sea of Seven Stars, the high-grade Tier 5 flying boat he obtained from him only flew 23,000 kilometers in 2 hours. Most Soul Formation cultivators' flying speed was only slightly more than 30,000 kilometers in 2 hours. With this Lei Peng flying boat, even if he was chased by a Soul Formation cultivator, it wouldn't be a big deal. The speed of the Lei Peng flying boat was more than 60% faster than ordinary flying boats of the same level. After flying for the same amount of time, the Lei Peng flying boat consumed slightly less spirit energy. If it was calculated based on the same distance, the Lei Peng flying boat's spirit energy consumption was less than half of that of an ordinary flying boat. After flying for 50,000 to 60,000 kilometers, the flying boat turned around and headed south. On the way, Wang Daoyuan even tried to change directions and stop abruptly. Fortunately, he had put in a lot of effort during the refining process, and the materials were also very good, so there weren't any problems. He flew south back to Qingli City and came to the imperial study in the palace. At this time, Wang Mingqian's cultivation had already reached the late stage of the Golden Core realm. From the looks of it, he could try to form his nascent soul in another 20 years. Wang Shui and Wang Daochang were also here. Wang Shui's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Golden Core realm, and he was only a little bit away from forming his nascent soul. Wang Daochang's cultivation was a little weaker, and he hadn't broken through to the late stage of the Golden Core realm yet. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "12th uncle, your cultivation has finally caught up, and you should be able to form your nascent soul soon. I have already prepared the nascent soul fruit, the 5-element spiritual objects, and the Tier 5 Dharma artifacts needed to form your nascent soul. As long as you comprehend them, you can form your nascent soul at any time." Wang Shui sighed. "I've only been a foundation establishment seedling in my family since I was young. I didn't expect to have a chance to form my nascent soul." Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "I don't have much use for these things. Selling them to outsiders is disadvantageous to our Yan kingdom. By the way, I came here this time to tell you something. I've already reached the limit of the Yuanying realm and my strength can't improve. Soon I will leave Beiyuan and go to the Qixingxi Xiusheng community to find an opportunity to break through to the soul formation realm. I plan to leave some backup plans in my family." Then he took out a soul-chasing compass and gave it to Wang Mingqian. "You should know this thing. Keep it well and it will ensure the safety of Qingli City. Jiaqi is my clone, and his strength is not inferior to that of a grand demon king. With him in Beiyuan, we don't have to worry about the demons coming to cause trouble." Then he took out a beast skin book and an interspatial ring. "This is the secret technique inheritance I got from the Sea of 7 Stars. It can be used to split part of your soul to control your clone. There are a few Tier 5 puppets in the interspatial ring. You can use this secret technique to control the puppets. If a few puppets attack together, a grand demon king will be nothing in your hands. 12th uncle, you should also cultivate this secret technique and control a Tier 5 superior grade sword puppet. After you break through to the Yuanying realm, with the help of the sword puppet, you will have the combat strength of a peak-level Yuanying. With this secret technique and the puppet technique, the strength of our Wang family cultivators will increase a lot." Wang Mingqian took all these things. "Father, don't worry. I know the importance of this secret technique. I will never leak it." Wang Daoyuan nodded. "There's no hurry to go to the Sea of 7 Stars. This time I will take your mother with me. How's the integration between the Wanchuan Merchant Group and the Blood Shadow branch? What's the reaction of the Blood Shadow headquarters? The countries near the sky/mountain range have reached an agreement with the Yan Kingdom and allowed the Wanchuan Merchant Group to enter. In these countries, the Blood Shadow branch has completely integrated with the Wanchuan Merchant Group. The Zheng state has also agreed to let the Wanchuan Merchant Group in. The integration will happen soon. The Wei state hasn't reached an agreement yet. Brother Mingshan is discussing it with them. Mother sent a letter saying that a few elders in the Blood Shadow branch expressed their dissatisfaction, but they are elders without any real power. The Zhang family and the Su family both support Mother. Among the non-lineal elders, more than half of them are under Mother's command. A few elders object, but they can't do anything." Chapter 978. The speed at which the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce took over the various branches of the Blood Shadow was very fast. The Chamber of Commerce had already entered the state of Zheng, and further west was the state of Zhou. Zhou Jingyuan was now the emperor of the state of Zhou. How could he go against his uncle Wang Daoyuan? The Zhou family was also a disciple of the Valley of Beasts, and Wang Mingqian was the sect master of the Valley of Beasts. They did not dare to make things difficult for the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce. The state of Zhou had a vast territory and was in the center of all the countries. As long as the Chamber of Commerce could take over the branches of the Blood Shadow in the state of Zhou, it would be very easy for them to expand to other places. As for the state of Wei, it should be because the royal family was too weak and could not make many decisions on their own. Each sect had their own ideas. For example, the Jinshan sect had a feud with the Wang family. However, the difference in strength was obvious and they would give in sooner or later. This progress is very good. In another 20 to 30 years, the Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce should be able to enter all the countries, and there will be no need for me to manage. I plan to make a trip to the headquarters of the Blood Shadow to solve some future problems. In case your mother and I leave, those people at the headquarters will cause trouble. If you encounter a difficult enemy, just send a message to Jiaqi. I'll leave something for him. There should be no one in Beiyuan who can threaten him. Then he left the palace and drove the Lei Peng flying boat to the south. When he arrived at the Wanchuan market, he handed the heavenly sun mirror and a soul-chasing compass to Jiaqi. Now there was no need for him to stay at the Wanchuan market, and he could patrol the territory of the state of Yan. Wang Daoyuan piloted the Thunder Rock flying ship and continued heading south. Now that he had switched to another ship, his speed was much faster. Without using all his strength, he could fly more than 30,000 miles in 2 hours. The only flaw was that the 4 sides were sealed and he could not see the scenery. In only 2 days, the flying boat arrived at the headquarters of the Blood Shadow in the southern wilderness. He was already familiar with the place, and the disciples guarding the gate also knew him, so no one dared to stop him. After arriving at the headquarters, he went straight to the small courtyard of the Zhou family. Zhou Wan was not at home. She should be handling business in the meeting hall. Wang Daoyuan took out the token, opened the array and walked in. Not long after, Zhou Wan returned from the assembly hall. When he walked into the small courtyard, he saw Wang Daoyuan drinking wine in the courtyard. He was pleasantly surprised. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Lord Shadow Master, did you encounter some good news?" Zhou Wan put on a straight face and snorted, "So it's the retired emperor of the Yan kingdom. What can I do for you?" Wang Daoyuan waved his hand and a cool breeze blew past. Zhou Wan floated over. He hugged her and said with a smile, "Shadow Master, are you still angry with me? You haven't been sending any messages for the past 10 years. Have you forgotten about the old because you have a new lover? How would I dare? In order to find a way to convert spiritual energy into divine sense, I hid my cultivation base and went to Snow Dragon City in the Arctic ice field. After spending some time there, he killed a soul demon and captured another one alive. Then he went to the Archaic Mysteries sect and asked the divine sense imprints of those ancient mighty figures to transform the inheritance of the soul demon into a secret technique that humans can cultivate. Now, my essence, energy and spirit have reached the limit of a Yuanian cultivator and can't be improved anymore. So, I plan to go to the Qixing Xixiuxian community to find an opportunity to break through to the soul formation realm. In the next few years, I've been thinking of ways to improve the flying boat. The Qixing Xixiuxian community has much more resources than Beiyuan. If I can't take down the Sea of 7 Stars, the safety of Beiyuan Xiuxian can't be guaranteed in the future. So, I have to create a flying boat suitable for a large number of people to migrate. Now that I've made a breakthrough, I have time to come and accompany you." Zhou Wan's anger subsided, and there was some sadness on her face. "Are you leaving again?" Wang Daoyuan was touching her. "It's not that I'm leaving, it's that we're leaving. Before I left last time I said that I would take you out. This time I should fulfill my promise. It's too boring to drift on the sea for a few years. With Lord Shadow Master, there's always something to do, don't you think so?" Only then did she become happy. She hit Wang Daoyuan's naughty hand. "Behave yourself. At least you still have some conscience and didn't forget your promise. I'd better not go. There are a lot of things to do here at the Blood Shadow headquarters. If I leave, the Zhang and Su families will be disloyal again, and all our efforts over the years will be in vain. Lord Shadow Master, don't worry. I've already thought about it. I'll move some of the core members of the Zhang and Su families to the north of the Yan kingdom, so that the rest of them won't have enough prestige. My clone Jiaqi, ancestor myriad spirits and many sword puppets are in the Yan kingdom. Not to mention an early nascent soul stage cultivator. Even a peak nascent soul stage cultivator wouldn't be able to do much. The people left behind at the Blood Shadow headquarters don't have enough strength and prestige. Although First Elder Zhang Yu has a high status, his subordinates are weak. In this way the 3 forces will be balanced and no one will dare to go against the Yan kingdom. Then I'll transfer Dao Jian to the headquarters and make him an elder with real power. No one will dare to act rashly. Plus we won't be gone for too long. The last time I went to the Sea of 7 Stars, I wasted a few decades. The main reason was that I was too weak, and there were too many good things I wanted to find. This time I only have 2 goals. One is to find the pure yin and pure yang spiritual items needed to break through to the soul formation realm. The other is to find a foothold for future expansion into the Sea of Seven Stars. After these two things are settled, we'll come back. The place where we can find the pure yin and pure yang spiritual items is called the Sunset Abyss. I have the map of the Sunset Abyss. There are many deserted islands at the periphery of the Sea of Seven Stars. It won't be difficult to find a suitable foothold. Plus the time it takes to go back and forth, it'll take at least 10 years. In such a short time, the Blood Shadow won't be able to do anything. Only then did Beiyuan relax. It's good that you're prepared. I've lived for more than 500 years, but I've never seen the sea. This time I have to take a good look at the scenery outside. My cultivation has already reached the peak of yuanying. Your cultivation hasn't caught up yet. We have to hurry up and help you improve your cultivation. In the next few months, Beiyuan spent most of her time in the small courtyard. She rarely went to the meeting hall to deal with official business. She would only go there every few days to deal with some important matters. With Wang Daoyuan's help, her cultivation improved very quickly. However, there was still a gap between her and the late stage of yuanying. At this rate, she should be able to break through in another 3 to 5 years. Wang Daoyuan and Beiyuan had just woken up when there was a knock on the door. He scanned with his divine consciousness and found that it was Zhang Dingming and Su Qinghe who came to visit at the same time. Su Qinghe's cultivation had also broken through to the yuanying realm. It seemed that this guy had been hiding his strength before. Wang Daoyuan controlled the array and let them in. The two of them came to the courtyard and bowed to Wang Daoyuan. "Greetings, Your Majesty." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "No need to be so polite. What are you two doing here?" Zhang Dingming, the old fox, just laughed. "Nothing important. We're just here to pay our respects to Your Majesty. Congratulations to Your Majesty for making great progress in your cultivation. I think it won't take long for you to break through to the semi-god realm." Su Qinghe also flattered, "Congratulations, Your Majesty. You can expect to reach the semi-god realm." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand. "You don't have to be so polite. How's the migration of your two families going?" The Yan Kingdom's Monan County and Hanhai County have long been established. The Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce has also developed a lot of industries there and formed many small markets. The Grand Elder will be the governor of Hanhai County and the Second Elder will be the governor of Monan County. When do you plan to take up your posts? Hearing this, the two of them were delighted. Wang Daoyuan had agreed to let them move to the Yan Kingdom and even gave Zhang Dingming the position of governor. The Su family had joined the Yan Kingdom earlier and should also have a governor position. It was just that there had been no news in the past few years and the two of them were very nervous. After all, the two yuanying cultivators were the biggest obstacle for Wang Daoyuan to take over the Blood Shadow. The two of them were really worried that they would be secretly killed. Now that they had received a promise, they were reassured and the fear in their hearts disappeared. Su Qinghe quickly cupped his hands and said, "I've already made the preparations. About half of our family has already migrated. We can take up the posts at any time." Chapter 979. Zhang Dingming didn't want to be left behind and said, "I'll go whenever the retired emperor wants me to." It was great that the two of them were willing to cooperate. If the two yuanying cultivators left and took some people with them, the Zhang and Su families' influence and Blood Shadow would be greatly reduced. As the first elder, Zhang Yu could barely manage the situation. Su Qinghe had always been the second elder. Now that he was gone, the third elder, Chao Jing, should fill the vacancy and become the second elder. Chao Jing had long since joined the Wang family. There was a Chao family in Guiyuan County, and the head of the family was Chao Jing's youngest son. He wasn't talented and now that he was old, he didn't have much hope of breaking through. He didn't have any outstanding descendants, so he naturally didn't have much ambition. He was someone who could be put in an important position. When Wang Daojian came, he could directly become the third elder. In this way, after Beiyuan left, the decision-making team could remain stable. Then you should go as soon as possible. The Yan Kingdom has already made preparations. However, after the second elder became the governor of South Desert County, things in Blood Shadow will be difficult to manage. The third elder, Chao Jing, will fill the vacancy and become the second elder. My younger brother, Wang Daojian, has expanded several branches since he took over the Shanbei branch. It's not appropriate for such a talent to stay in the branch. What do the two elders think? Su Qinghe quickly said, Hall Master Wang Daojian has made great contributions and should be transferred back to the headquarters. He can fill the vacancy of the third elder. Zhang Dingming also said, Hall Master Wang Daojian was personally taught by you. He has deep attainments in the Tao of sword cultivation. In terms of fighting ability, few below the Yuanying can match him. It's a waste of talent for him to be a hall master or an ordinary elder with real power. The position of third elder belongs to him. Wang Daoyuan nodded. In that case, when Zhou Luan has time to deal with official business, we'll take care of this matter. The two nodded and chatted for a while before leaving. After sending the two people away, Wang Daoyuan returned to the room. Zhou Luan was still lazily lying on the bed. Wang Daoyuan sat by the bed and said with a smile, "I've sent the two of them away. Why don't we continue cultivating?" Zhou Luan hit him lightly. "Go to hell. I still have to deal with official business tomorrow. How can I meet people like this? You need to recover your strength today, so stop fooling around." Wang Daoyuan also stopped teasing her. He used the star pattern sea cucumber to make some food for Zhou Luan to nourish her. Early the next morning, Zhou Luan left the small courtyard and went to the conference hall. After waiting for more elders to arrive, Su Qinghe stood up and cupped his hands. Reporting to Shadow Lord, this subordinate has already broken through to the Yuanying realm. From now on, this subordinate will focus on cultivation and will no longer be able to manage the headquarters affairs. I want to resign from my position as the second elder and focus on cultivation. Zhou Luan pretended to be surprised. The second elder has worked hard for Blood Shadow and has never made any mistakes. Your contributions are obvious to all. How can you resign so easily? Su Qinghe said again, this subordinate is focused on cultivation and has no time to manage worldly affairs. I hope Shadow Lord can fulfill my wish. Zhou Luan sighed. Forget it. We cultivators focus on cultivation. Since you don't want to manage worldly affairs anymore, I won't force you. However, you've worked hard for Blood Shadow for hundreds of years. If I allow you to resign, I'm afraid the elders will be disappointed. You should follow the example of the previous great elder and become the Grand Supreme Elder of Blood Shadow. From now on, you can focus on cultivation and won't have to manage worldly affairs. Su Qinghe bowed. Thank you, Shadow Lord. No need to be so polite. You deserve it. The second elder has been promoted to Grand Supreme Elder and the third elder, Chao Jing, has been promoted to second elder. Now that the position of third elder is vacant, who should be promoted to take over? Zhang Yu answered, in recent years Blood Shadow has been safe and sound. There have been very few people who have made great contributions. In terms of outstanding contributions, the current Shanbei branch hall master, Wang Daojian, is at the top. When he took over the Shanbei branch, he was only in charge of a second-grade Qingli branch. Now that 60 years have passed, the Shanbei branch already has 5 second-grade Shanbei branches. They have even set up branches in the Arctic Ice Plains and Linhai Prefecture, 2 places that Blood Shadow has never set foot in. To Blood Shadow this is a great contribution. If they don't reward him, they'll be disappointed. In my opinion, we should summon Wang Daojian to the headquarters and take over as third elder. All the elders knew about Wang Daojian's matter. The Shanbei branch's territory could rapidly expand completely because of the Yan Kingdom's envoy. However, as the Shanbei branch hall master, Wang Daojian could only be credited to him. If this layer of window paper was broken, wouldn't it mean that Blood Shadow was a subordinate force of the Yan Kingdom? In reality, this was indeed the case. However, they couldn't admit it. The Wang family entering Blood Shadow and replacing the Zhang and Su families as the new leaders was a secret that everyone in Blood Shadow knew. It was only a matter of time before someone from the Wang family became Blood Shadow's Grand Elder. Wang Daojian had also grown up in the Blood Shadow branch, so entering the headquarters was completely in line with the process. This was giving Blood Shadow enough face. There was no reason for him to stop them, nor was there any meaning to it. As soon as Su Qinghe said this, many of the elders spoke in agreement. Zhou Luan also agreed. Since that's the case, then summon Wang Daojian back to the headquarters to take on the role of third elder. The Shanbei branch hall master position will be temporarily taken over by the deputy hall master. When there are suitable people, it won't be too late to send him over. The Shanbei branch hall master was Wang Dekong. He was Wang Shoufeng's descendant and had been managing intelligence in the Blood Shadow Mountain branch. After establishing his Violet Palace, he was promoted to deputy hall master of the Shanbei branch. Now, the Blood Shadow branch that had merged with the Wanchuan merchant group, apart from managing businesses, only dealt with intelligence. Wang Daojian was the same. There were no requirements in terms of cultivation, so Zifu realm cultivators were completely qualified. The others also knew that the Wang family controlled the branch and no one was willing to be bullied. Naturally, they had no objections. Zhou Luan continued, since all the elders have no objections, Let's go to the ancestral hall and confer Su Qinghe as the second Grand Elder of Blood Shadow. After that, the group went to the ancestral hall and went through the ceremony of conferring the title of Supreme Elder. Wang Daoyuan sent a letter to Wang Daojin, asking him to come to the Blood Shadow headquarters and take on the role of Third Elder. A few days later, Wang Daojin arrived at the Blood Shadow headquarters. Although he was the hall master of a branch hall and had a status comparable to an elder, he had never come to the headquarters before. Wang Daoyuan even sent a Wang family member to welcome him. Over the years, many Wang family members had come to the Blood Shadow headquarters. Although their cultivation wasn't high, they would be able to nurture a group of Golden Core elders in a few decades. Wang Daojin first came to the small courtyard of the Zhou family. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he bowed to Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan. "Greetings, seventh brother and seventh sister-in-law." Wang Daoyuan took out a universe ring. "We're brothers, so there's no need to be polite. Your seventh sister-in-law and I are preparing to travel the sea. There needs to be a Wang family member overseeing the Blood Shadow headquarters. You should have learned the doppelganger soul nurturing technique. There's a mid-grade tier 5 sword puppet inside. Refine it into a doppelganger. With this sword puppet, you don't have to be afraid of anyone who dares to cause trouble in the Blood Shadow headquarters. If you can deal with it normally, then deal with it normally. If you can't, then be ruthless." Wang Daojin took the universe ring and nodded solemnly. "Seventh brother, don't worry. Although I'm not very strong, it won't be difficult for me to manage the Blood Shadow headquarters. I naturally believe in your abilities. Go and hand over the Third Elder's affairs to Chao Jing." A month later, Zhang Dingming and Su Qinghe left the Blood Shadow headquarters in the name of traveling. When they left, they didn't say anything. Only a few people knew about it. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan weren't in a hurry to leave the Blood Shadow headquarters. Instead, they continued to stay here. In the next year or so, Zhou Wan rarely went to deal with affairs. All the big and small affairs were dealt with by the three elders. After they were done, the Blood Shadow headquarters seemed to have returned to the state when there was no Shadow Master. Chapter 980. Over the past year, Wang Daojin's position had been consolidated. The main forces of the Zhang and Su families were in the Yan Kingdom. There was an endless stream of flying boats between the headquarters and the north of the mountain. Currently, more than half of the two families had been moved there. The powerful elders of the two families also followed Wang Daojin's lead. Chao Jing did not have much ambition and did not have his own forces. Naturally, he listened to Wang Daojin. Although Zhang Yu had the support of many non-direct elders, he would not make an enemy of the Wang family. He would first ask for Wang Daojin's opinion on everything. As the third elder, Wang Daojin's actual power was greater than the previous first elder. He had established his prestige and had a mid-grade level 5 sword puppet in his hand. He was strong enough in both soft and hard ways. Moreover, Wang Daojin wasn't a greenhorn who was inexperienced. When he was young, the Wang family was only a foundation establishment family. Later, when Wang Daoyuan took down Fallen Dragon Ridge's Jade Pine Mountain, he was among the first group of people to guard it. At that time, there were many demon beasts in Fallen Dragon Ridge, but there were no experts to guard it. They could only rely on the protection of a large formation. In terms of experience in dealing with demon beasts, he was definitely not lacking. Later, when they were stationed in the Five Elements Mystic Realm and the Wang family began to infiltrate the Blood Shadow branch, he was among the first group of people to enter. At that time, the Wang family was still very weak and could not afford to offend the Blood Shadow. He had truly grown up by completing assassination missions. In terms of rich experience, he was second only to Wang Daoyuan in the Wang family. The elders of the Blood Shadow headquarters were not strong enough. There was no hope at all for them to take him down. Wang Daojin had gained a foothold in the Blood Shadow headquarters. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan could also leave in peace. When Zhou Wan left, she did not deliberately hide it. She used the excuse of going to the Yan Kingdom to see her child and left openly. Most of the past Shadow Masters of the Blood Shadow did not manage much. It was normal for Yuanian cultivators to go into seclusion and not come out for dozens of years. The headquarters was managed by the three elders and a group of powerful elders, so there would not be any trouble. The two of them left the Blood Shadow headquarters and returned to the Yan Kingdom under the escort of the elders. After sitting on Lei Peng's flying boat, the speed surprised Zhou Wan. "The flying boat you've improved is too fast." "That's right. I've spent so much effort. If I don't have some skill, wouldn't it be too embarrassing? It's a pity that this cabin is sealed, and I can only use my divine sense to observe the surrounding scenery." I was thinking of taking a good look at the seascape after going out to sea. This is the first Lei Ping flying ship that I've refined. It's not perfect yet. I was planning to improve it by using transparent materials to build a few viewing platforms on the outer shell. Then why didn't you make any improvements after staying in Bloodshadow's headquarters for so long? Wang Daoyuan hugged Zhou Wan from behind. With the Shadow Master by my side, how could I have the mind to do anything else? How about? Zhou Wan hit him on the hand. I'm still waiting to go back and see the 3 children. Be serious. 2 days later, the 2 of them arrived at Yan Country's Qingli City. They had already sent a message beforehand, so the 3 children were already waiting in the air outside the city. When the 2 flying boats met, Zhou Wan impatiently came out of Lei Peng's flying boat and landed on Wang Mingqian's auspicious cloud. Wang Mingqian and Wang Mingren bowed. Children pay respects to mother. Wang Mingxian was very casual and directly threw herself into Zhou Wan's arms. Mother, I haven't seen you for a long time. I always wanted to run to see you, but Big Brother said it was too dangerous outside and didn't let me go out. Zhou Wan gently patted Wang Mingxian's back. You're already a big girl, yet you're still acting spoiled in front of mother. Your cultivation is not bad, you've already reached the peak of foundation establishment. Cultivate well. Mother is still waiting to see you open up your Zifu. Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian were already over 30 years old, and their cultivation had already reached the peak of foundation establishment. From the looks of it, they should be able to open up their Zifu earlier than Wang Delan. Wang Mingxian's personality was very similar to Zhou Wan's. When she heard Zhou Wan mention her cultivation, she had a proud look on her face. I could have opened up my Zifu long ago, but Grandpa Myriad Spirits wanted me to accumulate more. He said that only by accumulating more can my future path be smoother. The family landed in the backyard of Qingli City's imperial palace, which was also a harem. However, Wang Mingqian had never married, and Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan didn't live in the palace. Usually only a few maids were here to clean up. However, Wang Mingxian often ran to the harem. There were many exotic flowers and fruits here, which were very attractive to her. After arriving at the harem, Wang Mingqian pointed to a tall palace and said, "Father, Mother, this is Changel Palace, the residence prepared for you." The family walked into Changel Palace, and Ancestor Myriad Spirits also flew out of the pagoda. He glanced at Zhou Wan and said with a smile, "You are indeed a descendant of Tianping. Your phoenix bloodline is very similar to his." Zhou Wan hurriedly bowed. Zhou Wan of the Zhou family greets Ancestor Myriad Spirits. Thank you for taking care of our 3 children. There's no need to be so polite. The Valley of Beasts has withered. The Zhou family can be considered part of the Valley of Beasts, so I wanted to come out and take a look. These 3 children are all extremely talented, and they have the Zhou family's bloodline. Taking care of them can be considered as doing my part to continue the Valley of Beasts. Wang Mingxian asked, "Grandpa Myriad Spirits, now that my parents are back, Brother Mingren and I can open up our Zifu, right? Over the past few years, you have been preventing me from breaking through. Brother Mingren's cultivation has already caught up to mine." Ancestor Myriad Spirits sighed. "Young people are impatient. Since your parents are here, you can do as you please." Hearing that Ancestor Myriad Spirits had no objections, Wang Mingxian threw herself into Zhou Wan's arms and acted coquettishly. "Mother, I heard from Grandpa Myriad Spirits that after I opened up my Zifu, I could freely control spiritual plants to fight my enemies. My strength is not inferior to a sword cultivator's." Zhou Wan patted her head. "Forget it. A difference of a few years won't make much of a difference. Your father's foundation was not very good when he was young. Later on, he obtained sufficient spiritual items and was able to cultivate to perfection. The 2 of you are extremely talented and did not lack resources since you were young. Your accumulations should not be too bad. Open up your Zifu." Wang Mingxian was overjoyed. "Thank you, Mother." Wang Mingqian took out 2 purple cloudwood cores. "I won't join in the fun when my siblings open up their Zifu. I still have a lot of work to do in the imperial study. Although you are much more talented than me and have no use for these 2 purple cloudwood cores, it's better to be prepared." Wang Daoyuan waved his hand. "Go. The country's affairs are more important." Wang Mingqian left the harem. Wang Mingxian and Wang Mingren each took a piece of yin-yang purple jade. Wang Mingxian looked at Wang Mingren defiantly. "I can't beat you. Wait until I open up my Zifu and can control spiritual plants. Let's see how I'll get my revenge." Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan looked at each other and smiled. They shook their heads. These 2 children had never suffered before. They were in their 30s and still had the temper of a child. The two of them each found a large hall and prepared to open up their zifu. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan temporarily sat in Chang'e Palace. Soon, the rooms on both sides of Chang'e Palace's main hall emitted a dazzling purple light. The siblings had never lacked spiritual items since they were young. They ate all kinds of spiritual fruits like rice. Naturally, their foundations were very solid. After a while, two purple balls floated above Chang'e Palace. Wang Mingxian's embryonic zifu was slightly larger, with a diameter of 8.7 inches. Wang Mingren's was slightly smaller, with a diameter of 8.5 inches. This talent was probably second only to Wang Daoyuan. Wang Mingxian's zifu opening speed was slightly faster. Soon, a large ball of pure spiritual energy appeared out of thin air. The ball of spiritual energy absorbed the surrounding spiritual energy and turned into a large green tree. This tree was still absorbing spiritual energy. The tree grew bigger and bigger, and its crown soon surpassed the Imperial Apex Hall. The Imperial Apex Hall was the tallest building in the entire clear glass city. The decorations at the top of the hall were more than 150 feet tall. However, the tree's growth speed didn't slow down. A spiritual energy vortex formed around it. After a few minutes, the tree became a huge monster and enveloped the entire clear glass city. Chapter 981. There were many spirit plants planted in Qingli City. Under the cover of the tree they were full of vitality. In particular, the spirit plants in Chang'e Palace had begun to grow rapidly. Patriarch Myriad Spirit flew in from outside. His face was filled with joy, sadness, nostalgia and other complex emotions. After more than 100,000 years, I didn't expect to see Azure Wood again. Wang Daoyuan asked, Patriarch Myriad Spirit, you said that Azure Wood's purple mansion phenomenon was a green sapling. Do you have some misunderstanding about saplings? Such a big sapling is really rare. Patriarch Myriad Spirit looked at the towering tree and smiled. The purple mansion phenomenon will slowly change. You don't have to worry too much. It's just that Mingxian's talent is too powerful. The movement of opening her purple mansion is much greater than Azure Wood's. If Azure Wood didn't die in battle, he would have cultivated to the earth immortal realm. Clearly, her talent is above his and she has a ready-made cultivation technique. Unlike Azure Wood, who spent a lot of time deducing cultivation techniques, it shouldn't be difficult for her to reach the earth immortal realm. Before he finished speaking, the spiritual energy vortex around the green tree became stronger and stronger. Not only did the green tree stop growing, it became smaller and smaller. After a few minutes, the tree shrank to about 5 inches tall. Then, it gradually turned into a sapling pattern that was engraved on Wang Mingxian's purple mansion. On the other hand, the green bamboo in Chang'e Palace grew more than 3 feet tall. Cracks even appeared on the ground of the bamboo garden. Dozens of bamboo shoots broke through the soil and grew more than a foot tall. At that moment, a tiger's roar sounded. Beside Wang Mingren's purple mansion, a white tiger divine beast appeared. The white tiger divine beast's might was extremely powerful. The Sika deer and other spirit beasts in the harem were all trembling in fear. The white tiger raised its head and let out a tiger's roar. Many spirit beasts collapsed to the ground in fright. Some useless fellows actually fainted right away, leaving behind a pile of 5 grains reincarnation items beside them. The maidservants who cleaned the harem were also trembling in fear, not daring to come over. Although the white tiger's aura was powerful, it wasn't as powerful as Azure Wood's. Its range of influence was limited to the palace. After a few minutes, the white tiger's body emitted a dazzling silver light. The silver light gradually dissipated, and the white tiger disappeared. What appeared before his eyes was a silver longsword with a white tiger carving on its hilt. The white tiger's divine beast aura was still the same as before, but it now had a hint of killing intent. Patriarch Myriad Spirits nodded in satisfaction. The Wang family will prosper. Brightblade's Violet Palace phenomenon is identical to Divine Lord Slaughter's. God Monarch Slaughter was also a peerless genius. He had cultivated to the late stage of the Mahayana realm before the age of 5,000. At that time, the essence, energy and spirit in his body that had turned into immortal power was already very close to half. He was only a hair's breadth away from becoming a mighty figure. Moreover, he was also a top-notch sword cultivator. Only a few sword immortals could defeat him. Unfortunately, he fell in a great battle and was unable to advance any further. However, his life-killing sword art was definitely not inferior to an almighty's inheritance. Ming Ren's talent is slightly better than his. His future achievements will only be greater. The silver longsword slowly shrank and eventually turned into sword runes that were engraved on Wang Mingren's purple palace. The two of them had never encountered any danger, and their lives had been very smooth since they were young. Naturally, they didn't have any inner demons. After meditating in front of the purple palace for a moment, the soul easily walked in. Soon the two purple palaces descended. Above the two side halls, spirit chi vortexes began to appear. 6 hours later, Wang Mingxian and Wang Mingren ran out of the hall one after the other. The moment Wang Mingxian came out, she ran to the place where the spirit plants grew in Chang'e Palace. She condensed a ball of jade-green spirit energy in her hand. With a light wave of her hand, the jade-green spirit energy spread out. The green bamboo in the bamboo garden was stained with the jade-green spirit energy. The hundreds of bamboos seemed to come alive. The bamboo tips bent towards Wang Mingxian as if they were worshipping her. Wang Daoyuan scanned the bamboos with his divine perception and found that there seemed to be a spirituality similar to a soul in them. This spirituality was very weak, far inferior to that of an ordinary flying insect. Patriarch Myriad Spirits stroked his long beard with a smile on his face, looking gratified. Wang Daoyuan asked, "What's going on with these bamboos?" "It's extremely difficult for spirit plants to gain sentience. How did Mingxian casually sprinkle a bit of spirit energy and let them take the first step? At this rate, in a few hundred years, they will become bamboo demons or bamboo spirits." What do you think the second wood spiritual body spirituality means? If there weren't any benefits, why would the spirit plants be controlled by Mingxian? Back then, divine venerable greenwood was the same. The second wood spiritual body caused his spirit energy to have a trace of special energy. As long as the plants are stained with this energy, they will give birth to an extremely weak spiritual consciousness. Don't be fooled by the weak spiritual consciousness. It's extremely difficult for plants to gain spiritual consciousness. Especially the step of starting from nothing, it's extremely difficult to take. Even those divine trees that have lived for hundreds of thousands of years can't take this step. As long as it completes the process of starting from nothing, its spiritual consciousness will slowly increase in the future and it will eventually become a plant spirit. This is the same principle as raising spirit beast. However, the plant spirits that are enlightened by the second wood spiritual body are more loyal than demonic beasts. If you have any powerful spirit plants, it's best to prepare some for her. Normally, I just nurture these spirits of nature, which is much more powerful than the spirit plants that I temporarily create. Wang Daoyuan nodded. That's not a problem. Although I don't have any high-level spirit plants suitable for combat, the Myriad Rivers Chamber of Commerce has collected a lot over the years. Everything else aside, it's not a problem to find a few 3rd and 4th grade spirit plants suitable for combat. It's just that this special spirit energy won't cause any damage to Mingxian's body. I'm worried that she will consume too much and it will affect her future path. Patriarch Myriad Spirits chuckled. Don't worry. Spiritual bodies are derived from laws. Enlightening spirit plants is a special ability that comes with the second wood spiritual body. This ability was innate, just like how spirit bodies increased the speed of cultivation. As long as the Qianyuan realm still has the power of laws, the spiritual body's power will not be exhausted. Back then, divine venerable Greenwood was obsessed with spirit plant farmers. In more than 10,000 years he enlightened more spirit plants than you have ever seen, and he didn't see any problems. If he doesn't die in battle, it won't be difficult for him to step further into the immortal Tao. Mingxian's talent is above divine venerable Greenwood's, so there's no need to worry. Wang Mingxian saw Wang Mingren walk out and shouted, "Second brother, I couldn't beat you before. Let's compete again." Wang Mingren had always been belligerent. Now that he had a chance, he naturally wouldn't let it go. He took out his 2nd grade superior grade longsword and said with a smile, "Sister, be careful." With that, he waved his long sword and a cold killing intent gushed out. Wang Daoyuan was taken aback. This is sword intent? She can comprehend sword intent just after opening her purple mansion? Patriarch Myriad Spirits laughed. What do you think? If she doesn't even have this ability, wouldn't a sword body be the same as an ordinary battle body? This is just the beginning. A sword body is a natural sword cultivator. In the future, her progress on the path of sword cultivation will be more and more terrifying. On the other side, Wang Mingxian was not to be outdone. She once again released a ball of green spirit energy and sprinkled it on the bamboo. After receiving the benefits, the bamboo worked extremely hard. The bamboo pole shook lightly and bamboo leaves fell from the bamboo branches. The bamboo leaves didn't fall to the ground. Instead, they shot toward Wang Mingren's sword chi. The bamboo leaves were still too weak and couldn't withstand a single blow from the sword chi. When a bamboo leaf touched the sword chi, it was instantly split in half and fell to the ground powerlessly. The sword chi's power didn't decrease, but it dimmed slightly. There were more than 1,000 bamboo leaves shooting out from the bamboo forest. After the first sword chi cut down 100 bamboo leaves, it quietly dissipated. Wang Mingren waved his sword again and again, and sword chi filled with killing intent slashed out. Wang Mingxian also shot out more bamboo leaves to fend off the sword radiance. The brother and sister fought for more than 10 rounds and they were evenly matched. Their strength was something that even Midzifu realm cultivators would find difficult to resist. Wang Daoyuan was very proud that his children were so promising. Mingren Mingxian, stop fighting. If you continue, the entire Chang'e Palace will be barren. Chapter 982. Hearing Wang Daoyuan's words, Wang Mingren and Wang Mingxian stopped. The entire Chang'e Palace was filled with broken bamboo leaves. Half of the originally lush and verdant bamboo forest was now bare. Wang Daoyuan smiled. You're evenly matched, so it's a draw. Wang Mingxian looked at the bamboo forest and shook her head. Second brother still won. The bamboo leaves in the forest won't last long, but second brother still has a lot of spiritual energy left. These bamboos can only shoot bamboo leaves to attack. If we continue to fight, the bamboo leaves will be exhausted and I'll be defeated. Seeing her disappointed, Zhou Wan walked out of the main hall of Chang'e Palace and came to Wang Mingxian's side. She hugged her and comforted her. Don't worry. Patriarch Myriad Spirits said that the spiritual plants you've nurtured for a long time are much stronger. Go ask your brother for some spiritual plants suitable for battle. After nurturing them for a while, Mingren won't be a match for you. Wang Mingren was still using a grade 2 longsword. If he changed to a grade 3 life-bound magic artifact, his strength would take a huge leap. However, he was already mature and didn't compete with his sister. Wang Daoyuan smiled. Now that you've both opened up your Violet Palace, you'll have to listen to Patriarch Myriad Spirits for your next cultivation step. The two bowed and followed Patriarch Myriad Spirits back to the Imperial Study. The two children had outstanding talent. Zhou Wan reverted to her old ways with a proud expression. My children have great talent, unlike you who opened up your Violet Palace at over 100 years old. Wang Daoyuan immediately retorted, you didn't give birth to them yourself. Isn't it thanks to me? Zhou Wan glanced at him but couldn't find any excuse to refute. She could only snort and return to the main hall of Chang'e Palace. Wang Daoyuan followed her in. Shadow Lord, I plan to return to Jade Spring Peak and refine another Lei Peng flying boat. Are you coming back with me, or are you staying here to accompany the children? Of course I'm accompanying the children. I haven't seen them for many years, so I have to spend more time with them. Why would I go back with you when you're so detestable? When Zhou Wan was proud, she always liked to insult him. Wang Daoyuan had long been used to it. Then I'll head back first. Whenever you miss me, you can come to Jade Spring Peak to look for me. Who would miss you? Get lost. Wang Daoyuan left Clear Glass City and returned to the underground cave of Jade Spring Peak, preparing to refine the second Lei Peng flying boat. The outer shell of the flying boat and even the device that converted spiritual energy into the power of law didn't require him to do it himself. He only needed to refine the core part. With his current divine sense cultivation, refining a set of flying boat cores was not difficult at all. After half a year, the core of the flying boat was completely refined. On the outer shell of the flying boat, not only was an observation deck added, but some other things were also improved. It took him a few days to assemble the entire flying ship. He was about to go to Qingli City to explain some things to Wang Mingchen before leaving Beiyuan Xiuxian to go out to sea. The formation of the underground cave was opened, and Zhou Wan walked in. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, Shadow Lord, did you miss me? Shameless. Who misses you? Ming Ren and Ming Xian have cultivated for a long time and want to go out to experience, so Dahe followed them out. Mingchen has to cultivate in addition to dealing with official business every day. I was bored staying there, so I came back here to take a look. After all, we've lived here for more than 100 years. This is our home. Has your flying boat been refined? The new Lei Peng flying boat has been refined. In addition to the observation deck, some simple modifications have been made. When Ming Ren and Ming Xian opened their purple mansion, it was too noisy. I'm afraid it will be targeted. If ordinary people make a move, Dahe can handle it. But if the Soul Demon clan makes a move, it will be troublesome. Anyway, Jiaqi has nothing to do now, so let him secretly protect Ming Ren and Ming Xian. With a thought, Jia Qi came to the underground cave in a short time. Wang Daoyuan gave him the 5th-level high-grade Lei Peng flying boat. If he could bring the cultivated spiritual plants with him, it would be much more convenient to use them. Although this flying boat didn't have an observation deck, it was fast enough. Jia Qi was left in Beiyuan by Wang Daoyuan to deal with the soul demon. Since there was a problem in the Yan kingdom, he naturally had to take action. With the Lei Peng flying boat, it was more convenient to support everywhere. He also gave him a 3rd-level high-grade Yi Wood Chengkuan gourd and asked him to give it to Wang Mingxian. In order to exert the greatest power of the Yi Wood spiritual body, spiritual plants must be cultivated in advance. With this gourd, it was more convenient to cultivate spiritual plants. I've already made the preparations. As long as I give the nascent soul fruit and the auxiliary materials for nascent soul to Mingqian, everything will be fine. Do you have anything else to tell me? If not, let's set off now. To avoid trouble, we'll leave quietly this time. We'll go deep into the Mirage Fog Sea from the Purple Gold River Valley. In that case, the demons won't be able to find us. When we're far away from the sky/mountain range, there won't be any 5th-level demons. I've added an invisibility array on the Lei Peng flying boat. Demons below 5th level won't be able to find us. Zhou Luan was still a little reluctant. We're leaving so suddenly. I really can't bear to leave the children. The children have grown up. They have to go out and explore. Ancestor Myriad Spirits is watching over Mingqian. Mingren and Mingxian are being watched by Jia Qi. They won't be in any danger. Besides, it won't take us long this time. You stay here and see if there's anything you need to bring. I'll go tell Mingqian some things. He came to the Imperial Study in Qingli City and entered a secret room with Wang Mingqian. He took out a universe ring. There are 5 nascent soul fruit and a piece of 5 elements essence in here. It's enough for 4 or 5 people to form their nascent souls. In addition, there are some 5th-level defensive Dharma artifacts that I casually refined. With these things, it won't be a problem for you and 12th uncle to form your nascent souls. Wang Mingqian took down the universe ring and took out another universe ring. Father, you told me to find meteorites, star cores, spatial materials, and materials like crystals to refine the universe gourd. Over the years, the Chamber of Commerce has been searching in secret. We found a lot of meteorites and crystals. However, we didn't find many spatial materials and star cores. We only found 5 star cores and 5 kilograms of spatial materials. All the star cores and spatial materials are here. We found too many meteorites and crystals. We only put about 1/5 of them in the ring. Wang Daoyuan nodded. Star cores are hard to come by. These are enough. I've told you what I need to tell you. Your mother and I will leave Beiyuan and go to the Sea of 7 Stars. I've left a lot of backup plans. The Yan Kingdom and Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce can continue to do what they need to do. We'll leave secretly this time. We'll announce to the public that your mother and I are cultivating in seclusion. Then he left Qingli City and returned to Jade Spring Peak. On the way, he put the universe ring given by Wang Mingqian into the space of the spiritual pearl and gave it to his doppelganger to check. The spatial material inside was the space stone. It was pitch black and extremely hard. From time to time, it would flash with spatial fluctuations. The space stone was one of the most common spatial materials. A few kilograms of space stone could be added to refine spatial magic tools like the universe ring. The 5 kilograms of space stone was enough to make dozens of universe rings. Star cores were rare. There were only 3 in total in the space of the spiritual pearl. 2 were given by immortal Lei Yan. The other one was snatched from the Sea of 7 Stars. Now it had reached the upper grade of the 5th rank. The 5 star cores obtained by Wanchuan Chamber of Commerce were all of the upper grade of the 4th rank. The doppelganger took them out of the universe ring. The star cores floated up automatically and stopped at the place with the densest purple gas. Then they started to absorb the purple gas crazily. As time went by, the star power in the star cores became stronger and stronger. It wouldn't be long before they could emit starlight. By then, there would be more places to grow star fruits and star-patterned sea cucumbers in the space. Chapter 983. Wang Daoyuan returned to the Jade Spring Peak and went to the underground cave abode. Zhou Luan was rummaging through the boxes and cabinets, and some things were piled up on the bed. Lord Shadow Master, are you going to move? Why are you making such a big fuss? Looking at these old things, I want to take away all of them. The interspatial ring I carry with me is too small. Give me 2 interspatial rings and I'll pack more clothes. Wang Daoyuan had no choice but to take out 2 larger storage rings and give them to her. Back then, It took a lot of effort to move from the North Mountain branch to the Jade Spring Peak. He packed a lot of clothes, but she didn't wear many of them. Why are you bringing so many clothes? The clothes of cultivators won't get dirty. Just bring a few. What do you know? This trip may take more than 10 years. One change a day will take thousands of clothes. Wang Daoyuan had nothing to say. The clothes of cultivators were all magic artifacts. They were not stained with dust and were not easy to damage. If she didn't experience fierce battles, it was not a problem for her to not change clothes for decades or even centuries. She had to change clothes a day and pick out thousands of clothes. When she changed, she had to ask herself which one was the most beautiful. After a long time, Zhou Wan finally said, "I've brought everything I want. Let's go." Wang Daoyuan breathed a sigh of relief. Let's hide first and go near the Serene Mountain. The underground cave there leads to the Zijin River Valley. The two put on the black magic robe and used a concealment technique. They left the Jade Spring Peak and headed northeast. This time they left secretly, so they didn't bring any spirit beasts. There was only one Yun-Yi in the space of the Spirit Pearl. Since the last time they captured the spirit demon, they put him into the space of the Spirit Pearl and never let him out again. This guy caused destruction everywhere when he went out. It was better to keep him by his side. At the critical moment he could be of some use. Everything had its weakness. Yun-Yi was now being forced to cultivate by the Xian all day, and he didn't dare to resist. Now that his cultivation had reached the upper grade of the 4th level, he could break through to the 5th level at any time. However, it was very difficult to advance further due to the restrictions of his bloodline. He could only rely on time within the space of the Spirit Pearl to make up for his lack of bloodline. When his soul-devouring Nether Tiger bloodline was sufficient, he would not have to worry about bottlenecks anymore. The two of them quickly flew to the vicinity of South Serene Mountain. The Wang family had developed this area for decades, and it was now prosperous. A large city with a radius of more than 10 miles had been built on the South Serene Mountain. There were more than 100,000 members of the Wang clan in the vicinity, and many itinerant cultivators had settled down here. The Yen Kingdom had already established the Serene South County, which governed the sky-beheading mountain range north of the Huiyin Mountain. The county was governed by the Serene South City. Wang Daoyuan and Zhou Wan didn't approach Serene South City. Instead, they entered the underground cave 100 li south of the city. Half a day later, the two of them passed through the karst cave and arrived at the Zijin River Valley. Now that the Heavenly/Mountain Range's spirit vein had recovered to Tier 5, even the clouds and mist in this place had become denser. However, Wang Daoyuan's divine sense had also made great progress. He could still explore the situation 100 miles away. Is this the Zijin River Valley? I've never seen such a thick fog before. Moreover, there's a special power of law in this fog. If you absorb a little bit, it will cause interference to your own power of law. The fog here is from the Mirage Fog Sea. It's a method set up by the Valley of Beasts in the past. If you cultivate in this fog without special means, it's very easy to suffer from chi deviation. You'd better not absorb the spiritual energy. It won't be too late to cultivate after we fly out of the Mirage Fog Sea. Wang Daoyuan took out Lei Peng's flying boat. The two of them entered the flying boat, and the entire flying boat flew towards the east at an extremely fast speed. In the control room at the head of the flying boat were Qin Jiaoyi and Liao Yang's two clones. With them, Wang Daoyuan didn't need to spend time controlling the flying boat. Lei Peng's flying boat quickly flew out of the Zijin River Valley and entered the Mirage Fog Sea. They didn't keep flying east but northeast. Wang Daoyuan had the entrance token of the Valley of Beasts. He could sense the location of the Myriad Beast Island and use it to determine the direction. After flying for more than half a day, Lei Peng's flying boat finally left the Mirage Fog Sea. This place was located at the edge of the extreme cold ice field. To the north was the boundless ice field, and to the south was the magnificent sea. On the surface of the sea directly below, there were countless pieces of floating ice and large icebergs. At this time, the flying boat had already activated the invisibility array. Even a rank 5 demon couldn't discover Lei Peng's flying boat without special detection methods. Zhou Wan had already used her divine sense to explore the scene outside. Daoyuan, where's your observation deck? I haven't seen the sea with my own eyes. Quickly open the observation deck. Wang Daoyuan waved his hand. At the belly of Lei Peng's flying boat, a row of 3 feet wide boards automatically retracted, revealing the transparent material under the boards. A circle of transparent windows appeared on Lei Peng's belly. Inside the window there was a corridor. Zhou Wan was as happy as a child. She ran around the corridor and enjoyed the beautiful scenery around. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "Not only is there an observation deck inside the flying boat, but you can also open a skylight above to see the scenery outside." When Zhou Wan heard that there was a better place to see the scenery, she quickly said, "Quickly open the skylight. Let's go outside and have a look." Wang Daoyuan also took Zhou Wan to the upper cabin. Soon they came to the uppermost cabin of Lei Peng's flying boat. This cabin was only 2 feet square. The furnishings in the room were very simple. There was a table and 2 reclining chairs. The boards above the cabin shrank to both sides, revealing a hole slightly larger than the cabin. The cabin began to rise and the cabin floor just happened to fill the hole. The table and reclining chairs in the cabin appeared on Lei Peng's back. The periphery was protected by a formation, so it would not be affected by the fierce wind. Wang Daoyuan took out some spirit fruits from the space in the spiritual pearl and placed them on the table. He then lay down on one of the reclining chairs. "Shadow Lord, are you satisfied with this place to see the scenery?" Zhou Wan lay on the other reclining chair. She pinched a few grapes and put them in her mouth. She ate while looking at the surrounding sea. "Not bad. It's more interesting to see the scenery here. Your refining skills are finally useful." The 2 of them ate and drank while looking at the scenery. They stayed on Lei Peng's back for more than a day. "I haven't seen the sea for hundreds of years. I've finally seen enough. I don't know how many dangers there are ahead. I want to improve my cultivation as soon as possible. I hope I can help you. I'm going to start cultivating. Is there a cultivation room on the boat?" Wang Daoyuan smiled evilly. "Of course there is. I specially arranged the cultivation room. Follow me." The 2 of them came to a very spacious cabin. The furnishings here were exactly the same as the rooms in Bloodshadow's headquarters. There was also a very luxurious bed in the cabin. The bed was fiery red. The spirit energy fluctuations showed that it was a low-grade level 5 magic artifact. "This is a bedroom, not a cultivation room. I'm cultivating with you. Doesn't that mean we have to be in a bedroom? I haven't had the time to improve the Cloudy Rain Sutra. We still need to spend more time studying it. There might be many dangers ahead. You still want to waste your energy? My cultivation method has been improved. As long as I circulate it slightly, it will produce large amounts of blood essence and spiritual sense. However, my essence, chi and spirit are complete. I can't use them to strengthen my body and soul. My body can't contain that much either. It's a pity to waste them. It's better to help you cultivate." Wang Daoyuan only needed to take out the spirit gathering pearl from the space in the spiritual pearl every few days. He would then put the pearl that had used up all its spirit energy back into the spiritual pearl. He would use the rest of his time to cultivate with Zhou Wan. The 2 clones were very busy. Not only did they have to control the flying boat, but they also had to observe the situation around them. When they encountered islands and volcanoes, they had to stop and observe carefully. In the future, if they wanted to connect the 2 cultivation worlds, there would be many transfer stations along the way. There would also be people guarding them. It would be best if there were many people living in the transfer stations. He couldn't let these people live in the sea or on the unstable sea ice. The islands they encountered along the way were all potential transfer stations. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.